Hey, Internet. I feel bad because I'm like 3 minutes late. I was so going to be on time this morning, and then now I'm looking for something. Is it even near me? Yes, it is. Okay, and then um, I had to help my kids with breakfast, and so we barely made it. But you're not even here yet. Nobody's here yet. You're telling me that my little video I did last night, I didn't get y'all to be ready? Oh my goodness! Because I can't do a Saturday morning Q&A with nobody here. Let's see. Then I'm going to make sure I can get my comments so I can see them for when they do show up. Good morning. A couple of you showed up. Good. Yeah, like this thing as much as you can if you can so we can get some people to join us. And we're just going to hang out and drink coffee and talk about whatever you find most interesting. Camera effects. I closed all my windows in order to do something recently with this particular program. And now overlays. That's helpful, but I don't want overlays. And what is the one called? Scenes. There you go. That's what I wanted with scenes. So, wow, we already got some comments that I think we should talk about. I'm really curious about actually one of them, but geez, hold on. You ever have a chair with it's like a rolly chair, and like the leg can go straight, and then that puts it like right where your feet should be, and then that is not good. And then you got to move it, which on a flat surface would be cool, but I'm all carpet here, so that's that. Let's see. I need to come up a little, I think, and then sit back. I want to relax today. Yeah, I got super distracted this morning. My family and I get up at this point. We try to always be together and up by 7 a.m. in the living room, and we say the creed together. We say the Lord's Prayer together, the 10 Commandments, and then we do a little breathing and stretching, about 10 minutes of mindfulness, which we can talk about if you guys like. And then we start our day, and then today we got distracted by how did this happen? Afterwards, I was like, now go merrily on your way, singing a hymn according to your vocation, right? And kind of joked. Luther says that's how you should go after you do your 10 Commandments. Or excuse me, do your catechism in the morning. And Chloe, my oldest, piped up and said, yeah, like these are the Holy 10 Commands, because she knew from catechism that's the one he recommends. And it reminded me that a long time ago I'd written a poem about the 10 Commandments. And I suddenly wanted to share it with them. So I shared it with them, and I found all these old poems and hymns and stuff from forever ago and got in this, I don't know, me trap of reading it. And a couple of my kids really enjoyed it. So we've been doing that all morning, which again put us behind for breakfast and then put me behind for meeting you guys. So, but, yeah, cool. Saturday morning chill Q&A. What I want to try to do, if and when I can, is to try around 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I think. Just show up and be here, and we can hang out. And if you got questions, curiosities, theology you want to talk about, Bible study text you want to look at, whatever, you throw it in the comments, and we'll try to pick it up and do something about it for about an hour or so. And yeah, that's that. So with that, right off the bat here, Drew says something I find very interesting given some reading I did this past week. He says, I grew up and was baptized Seventh-day Adventist. While I know they're heterodox at best now, was my baptism efficacious or should I seek another baptism? That's a super good question on like a bunch of levels. It'll probably take us a little bit of time to pick that one apart. And the reason the question is most valid is because if I understand it correctly, now I'm reaching back. I'm 12 years now in the ministry, so I'm reaching back to like first year at seminary. So this is 16-year-old in my head only information. I would have to go look up F.A. Meyer's Religious Bodies of America or some other document to figure out, the narrow on this. But if I recall, the Seventh-day Adventists initially were an anti-Trinitarian cult. They definitely were a cult. They still kind of are a cult. But now we would call them a sect rather than a cult, perhaps, because they're one of the very few who went from being anti-Trinitarian to Trinitarian. I think that's right. I could be wrong about this, but I think that's right. I think they are Trinitarian now. And so if someone knows that for sure in the comments, that'd be really helpful. Because again, the memory is good sometimes, right? But not on this one. And but this has everything to do with the question of whether the baptism is efficacious or not. So if a group is not Trinitarian, then the baptism is not in the triune name. That's kind of what it comes down to. It can't be. Even if they like mimic the sounds, right? It is not in the triune name. They cannot by any means mean the triune name when they say the words. And it's not as though the efficacy of any sacrament or thing which God does is exclusively tied up in the meaning of the person saying the words in his heart, but it does have something to do with the meaning as the community hears those words, right? So, if I'm speaking in a foreign language, I'm speaking the scriptures and preaching them to you, and you and everyone with you has no idea what I'm saying, even as I hold up some bread and wine, right? Uh, well, that puts it in a different question, though. See, I would still know, though. If nobody knows, though, if none of us know anything about it, they're just noises and bread and wine, but those noises happen to be, without any knowledge by any of us, the random chance sounds of this is my body, this is my blood, does it happen, right? The challenge there is then at that point, you really are treating the words as sounds as an incantation, as opposed to as words. They've ceased to be words and they've become incantation, hocus pocus, right? That kind of thing. Which, do you know the history of that one? It's kind of fun. It comes from hocus corum, yeah, hocus corum, which is the this is body in Latin, and then in the Middle Ages, people would hear hocus corum, and they would think this is a magic thing because that's how it was taught, and they would try to use that as a spell somewhere or whatever. So, in either case, God's word is never a spell, right? It is not. It's not something we manipulate. It is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, and so it does its own thing. And to be sure, where that word is, it is always efficacious. So the question we're trying to diagnose is, can that word, which is the divine name, the source of all words, can that divine word be there where nobody knows it? Nobody believes it. Can that word enter into that space as sounds alone? And the historic position on this, which I guess I agree with, I do agree with it. I would like more on this for some reason, but the historic position on this is no, it can't be, right? The sounds themselves do nothing. This is not unlike, by the way, our point on why Bible translation is a secondary missionary activity, not a primary one. Because the Bible was never sent by God. Now, stick with me here, okay? The Bible's from God, absolutely. Inspired, inerrant, none of that's going away. But Jesus did not rise from the dead and hand 12 guys a book and say, go with this book and give it to people. Leave it in hotel drawers, right? He said, go and preach. And it is their preaching that has become that book. So, with that preaching being inspired and without error, and a source and rule for all doctrine to norm it, right? That book still is not the actual mission itself. But that book, preached, confessed, taught, is the actual mission itself. And so the idea that somehow people are just going to find this book somewhere and is going to convert them by itself, right, in a cave, yeah, with nothing else, is a bit of a tangential, not really biblical thought. And frankly, groups like the Gideons who make these books, which I've used them before, by the way. I'm not opposed to finding a Gideon Bible when I need one, so it's not like I'm anti-Bibles or something. But they know this too, which is why they don't just translate Bibles. They don't just print the Bible. They print in the front of the Bible an explanation of what you should find when you read the Bible, right? Which would be preaching, effectively, yeah. And the difficulty there, if you're a Missouri Synod Lutheran at least, is that in that segment of what you should find, there are things that are errors by their presence and things that are errors by their omission. Yeah, baptism, not so much mentioned. Yeah, and supper, not so much mentioned. Office of ministry, not so much mentioned. Right. So, 3 of the 60 parts is kind of a big deal. So, the point is though they recognize. The point of the tangent is that we, we are technically or theoretically not wanting to get into mission work which is sending a heterodox mission or heterodox preaching. And that front of the book, the front of the pamphlet in the Gideon Bible is in fact heterodox preaching. And so to support that is to support heterodox preaching, even though otherwise it's, translating a Bible. I mean, that's great. No one's against that. But the heterodox preaching we're against, right? So that gets us to be a sticky thing for us. But the idea, again, of just having people find the Bible by itself in the drawer and just suddenly get Jesus out of it and come to faith. Now, I mean, they're going to stop probably before Leviticus, right? They're just not even going to get there. So you'd have to either put stuff out of order or whatever. Again, Jesus didn't send the book. He sent the preachers. He sent the words. So the Word, who is flesh, by his Spirit inhabits these men, and then they speak. And so in that way, baptism, when we say baptism is the Word of God, it's that. It is God in our midst, in our presence. So can you have an efficacious activity of God in our midst, in our presence, if no one there has God with them? Because they don't believe in him at all. They deny him vociferously. He is not Father, Son, and Spirit, one God, three persons. God can't be there even if they're taking the sounds of his word and using them for their own purposes. So if you are then part of a non-Trinitarian community, church, for lack of a better term, then your baptism would not be, it's not that it's not a valid baptism, it's not a baptism, right? So you would not seek another baptism if you were if you were washed with water and had something called baptism done to you in that place. You would not seek another baptism. You would seek an actual baptism, because the truly heretical water washing ritual thing was never a baptism to begin with. Yeah. So that's the thing. So the second part of the question is, is the Seventh-day Adventist that? And to my knowledge, the answer is no. But I really would like to be affirmed on that one way or the other. And maybe, Drew, since it's your question, you have that piece. I haven't been able to follow the comments while I'm talking here. So kind of scanning it. Walter Martin has him as borderline. What does that mean? Borderline Trinitarian, right? Okay, so here's another piece that we get. I think this is out of Pieper. If you don't know the name, Dr. Pieper, Dr. Francis Pieper, Pieper, he is like the primary organizer of doctrines and teachings in the Missouri Synod's history. Now, he's going on almost 100 years old now in terms of the publication of his dogmatics, so it is dated in some ways, but it's very, very useful set of works, and I highly recommend it to lay people who are interested in theology. If you get to a part you're like, I don't get this, just skip over it, and then keep going, because there's a lot of really, really good stuff in there. And his position on baptism is pretty much what I've been saying. And then if you get to the point, though, where, if they're unofficially, or if they're officially, you're not sure-ish, right? And you're really, really in doubt, and nobody really knows. The example they give in this is more like, so what if, like, you're the child of Catholics, but your parents never had you baptized, but you were born in a Catholic hospital run by nuns who often will baptize without anybody knowing about it, right? Not a good thing, really. And so you don't really know if you were baptized or not. Now you're a Lutheran, and you converted as an adult after years of hedonism or whatever, and you're like, I don't even know if I was baptized. And you like call the hospital, and they're like, what? Yeah, nuns work here. No, of course they don't baptize people. Right? I don't even know, right? So what do you do in a time of uncertainty? You get baptized, and you trust the grace of God to be sufficient. Because if that second baptism is in fact second, then it's not a baptism. A rebaptism is not a baptism, right? And so it's for the sake of your conscience to know I am baptized that we would just do it. So you can say I am baptized, and it might have been when I was a baby, and it might have been when I was 37 years old. I'm not really sure, but I know it happened, right? And that's the point. That's what you want to have out of this. And so the same would be true, I would imagine, if we really found a place where we couldn't tell if someone was Trinitarian. So a doctrine is officially Trinitarian. Well, I mean, that's it. Then you're baptized. Yeah. There's no real reason I know of to doubt that. Yeah, unless unofficially your congregation all didn't believe it or something, yeah, and the preacher too, right? Because it's not just the preacher. It doesn't matter if the preacher doesn't believe it. If everybody else does, then when they hear the words Father, Son, and Spirit, they know exactly what's going on, right? The faith is there, present in the place. It's not as though faith makes it work, right? But the word is there to make the faith. The word is there because faith is a result of the word. So that's kind of that answer. Now, I gave you most of it. We can follow up if you want. I'm really curious about Seventh Day Adventist dietary law now, because as I've been digging on my own like personal health journey, kind of shift gears into that. We won't go too deep, but I found it very interesting what I've been learning about how much current Western medical nutrition practice is in fact the Seventh Day Adventist Church's changing the way that we think about food over the course of 100 plus years on purpose without most of us knowing it. I think that's really interesting stuff. Especially given the state of health in America today. I love this term people use, the standard American diet. The acronym's marvelous. The SAD diet. It's true, and it's true because it makes you sad. And the science is kind of quite conclusive on that. Not just in terms like I'm sad because I don't like the way I look or anything like that. No, like literally, it makes you sad. Like it does that to you. The kind of chemicals that you're putting in your body with the standard American diet are sad-making chemicals. So I think that's interesting, and it bothers me personally because I don't want to be that, right? If I can be a little bit happier, given the bouts of depression I've had my whole life, if I can be a little bit happier because I just don't eat something, right? And, you got to get over it a little bit, but, you get past it and you, like, feel better, like, that's good. I want that. And if it's all there in the first place because some cult run by a wacko prophetess in the 1840s has, like, used money and, like, moved machinations of government over 100 years to put it there, I find that really, really interesting. Don't you? So Drew, do you have any comments on your experience of Seventh-day Adventist dietary life growing up? Like, I just would love to hear that in the comments and respond to it and or share it here, because that oh man, it is. The Mormons have like dietary laws too, but it's not the same. I don't think it really doesn't have the same effect. And again, this idea that they've been creating corporations that exist to create food and or sell it to governments as what we need for decades upon decades and even up to 100 years. I just I don't know, maybe you won't like this. I find this just hilarious though, because you know who was like Helen White's like big science guy? Like he was the big like developer of the foods they were gonna like save the world with from her visions. His last name was Kellogg. Yeah, that guy, the one. They're great. That one. Yeah, Seventh Day Adventist marketing and or propaganda and or religion. Wow. Right. Wow. So, I don't know, Drew. Maybe not on a low level, but I want to hear about your vegetarianism. They are that organized for that because the documents exist, and it's even in scientific journals published by them in the last couple of years, like Seventh-day Adventist scientific journals talking about the plan and how it's worked. So, yeah, unless I'm just getting stuff that's like completely fabricated, in which case it's still a fun story, but that would be interesting too. But there are multiple sources. There's a new movie, by the way, a documentary coming out called Fat, F-A-T, not about people who are fat, but about the food fat, and it should be dealing with this as well. So if you are curious about this, try to watch for that documentary. You can pre-order it on iTunes now, I believe. And I'm not the pre-ordering type of guy, but I do think I'll end up trying to watch that thing when it comes out. So, but very vegetarians, yeah. So that's the thing. So vegans today, you'll hear them talk about how they eat nothing with a mother or a face, and I don't know if they think about that other than it sounds like a really nice sentiment. But that's a quote from Helen White, the prophetess of the Seventh-day Adventists. Like she had the vision that we're not from God. So this is God speaking, right? This isn't just in her view. This isn't just her idea. This is the voice of God for all humanity. You must eat nothing with a face or a mother, right? And then today, veganism, which is very religious, by the way, very cultic, very shaming of you if you leave it, that kind of thing. Or what's not shaming? What's it called when they kick you out of the community? Shunning of you. That's one of their things they'll say, and they don't even know. They don't even know it's Helen White. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. Yeah. So very vegetarian, and yeah, how good is that for you? That's a good question. Well, we can come back to that if other people want to talk about it. I'm gonna scroll back to the top and finally take a little sip of this lovely Mostly decaf coffee, and I'll explain that in a moment as well. If you listen to my Mad Christian podcast from this week, which I like being mad, is my new favorite thing is to be mad. You know about my discovery about caffeine. I have been such a coffee drinker, my whole life. Well, not quite. I was like tired when I was 16 or 17 one evening, probably because I had sleep apnea. But I didn't know that. Nobody knew that. No one would think to know that then. And my mom's like, well, you want some coffee? I'll have some coffee with you. My mom loves coffee. Hi, Mom. And that didn't addict me that day, but it kind of did. And I've been a heavy coffee drinker ever since. 1 to 2 grandes a day. What is that? 16 ounces in a grande, so 32 ounces a day. 1 to 2. Usually don't finish the second one. On and off here or there. And I have a lot of girls as my children, by the way. I've heard this is maybe part of that reality. Yeah. They'll bless somebody, but just something to know. But I've never really questioned it much in that there's some science out there, I believe, that shows you that coffee is actually kind of good for you too. It's not good for your cortisol levels if you're overdoing it, which I probably have been. It's not particularly good for your sleep patterns if you're drinking it after 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which I had been and then stopped. But one of the other side effects caffeine can have on the body is elevated blood pressure, right? And the reason for that is that caffeine does harden the arteries a little bit. And that then creates the higher blood pressure, which does dissipate. Yeah, but the more you're doing that to your body, the more it's eventually going to not dissipate. And so I've always had really low blood pressure. Even when I was significantly heavier than I am now, I still had the same pretty decent blood pressure. And then there were a series of doctor's visits for non-blood pressure related causes, and donating blood, right? It was one of them. And my blood pressure was like, that's not my blood pressure. What's going on? And I didn't, it was 3 in a row though, which means something's going on, right? Is this a health issue that's happening? I know I've had high cholesterol I've been trying to deal with and things like that. And so I started, just cutting stuff, trying to figure out what's going on with this, right? And I was on a medication. I cut that, and then I thought that fixed it, but then I found out that didn't fix it. What was it? It was the caffeine. So if I drink, 2 days ago, I did a half calf, right? So I brewed a grande. It's not really a grande, right? But I brewed home coffee grande, and it was half caffeine, caffeinated beans, half decaf, non-chemical, French waterpress. Do not use chemical decaf. Brewed half calf, and I drank about 8 ounces of it and took my blood pressure, and kaboom, there it was, right? Back up at just shy of dangerous levels, which I have this guy here, pretty sweet little thing, the Care Touch. It was like $30 on Amazon. And different reviews will say different things about wrist ones, but I think it's been pretty accurate in my experience so far with it. And so I was checking every day, several times a day for a while to figure out like what's causing this, right? And I don't know if you can see or this way. There's like color over here, and it's green, yellow, orange, red. And if you're in the green, you're good, and if you're in the yellow, you're not really good, and if you're in the orange, you're what? And if you're in the red, like, dude, go to a doctor, right? So, green is where you want to be. When I'm on caffeine, I'm into the yellow and sometimes into the orange. Right? Now, those numbers, the yellow and the orange, are ones that your doctor might say, "Oh, you're fine." And the challenge with that is that doctors are tired of telling people they're not fine every time they visit somebody because we all have high blood pressure. And it doesn't mean that's where you really want to stay. So anyway, for me, when I figured that out, right, that this is just what's causing this, it's the sole cause. And so I've gone to decaf. It's been about a month and a half, and I do miss it. Not as much as I thought I would, but enough that I'm testing it now. So this has in my full grind for this much coffee, it has 1 tablespoon of caffeinated beans. Okay, yeah, because yesterday, half calf, which is half and half, was not little enough. So it wasn't yesterday; it was 2 days ago. So went up. I want to find the happy medium, right? Where's the little dose of caffeine I can get that does not affect me? I bought some matcha tea recently too, so I'm gonna try that and see what that does. But anyway, so I'm gonna take a sip of it. Sorry, that was a tangent, wasn't it? Not much Q in that A, was there? All right, so let's go back and let's see. I'm scrolling. You guys are talking. I'll go down to the end of stuff. Nathan likes coffee and tea, but tea doesn't have the caffeine withdrawal factor for me. Yeah. And speaking of things that make you standard American diet sad, coffee withdrawal, like the chief thing I felt or feel during times of trying not to drink coffee with caffeine is the depression heightens, right? Sadness. It's really intense too. It's like, where is this coming from? I'm not sad about anything, but I'm so sad, right? It's is the caffeine. I've never had tea really fix my caffeine fix. It always is just not enough, and it's not a tenfold difference, but it's pretty big. Like the caffeine in the tea is just not nearly as much. So there is that. Oh man, what do I do when I got a burp? Hold on. That's nice. There we go. That was a little bit of breakfast. Lap song. I like lap song, but I want to drink it at night instead of whiskey, and then it's got caffeine in it. So it's like, well, that doesn't do any good. When's my new book coming out? Yeah. I thought it was going to be this fall. I was mistaken. It's going to be February 2nd, 6th. I forgot the actual date. It's February. Hopefully I will have the Book of Hours out before then, would be my hope. Let's see. Caffeinated tea seems healthier, says Gourmand Mod. You know, Gourmand Mod almost sounds like gourmand, which is a word for someone who's good at cooking and knows their food. Sugar. Oh my. All right. You made me do it, big black Ram truck. I like your pick. You made me do it. So, Sugar, if you have not listened to the Model Health Show with Sean Stevenson, now I can't speak for everything Sean does or says. There's some stuff in there where he's just like, gonna help you have your best life. Yeah. He's funny about it though, and it's not really spirituality, so it's okay, but not my cup of tea. But he does some deep dives on a few things, like the history of sugar. Gonna blow your mind when you figure out what sugar is, what it does, and how if you're a rat in a cage and they've given you two things to eat, they've made you eat both of them so that you're addicted to both of them. One of them is cocaine and one of them is sugar. You will take the sugar over the cocaine. That's some crazy stuff, man. That's some crazy stuff. Go listen to Sean Stevenson, the Model Health Show episode on sugar. He's got a great one on water too, which let's just say if you've ever struggled with man boobs like I have, well, bottle water, man. Bottle water. Go listen to it. Don't take my advice. Go listen to it. So, all right. Here's some theology, and it sounds really sad. My first wife that died in a car accident was a Seventh-day Adventist, and by the grace of God, got out and trusted in grace alone through faith. It is a vicious cult. Yeah, I agree with that as the whole. As Drew has pointed out, their organization, while in certain ways highly hierarchical, I think he's right that on the ground, it's not always the same. It's kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous in that way. Like different AA groups can be like really, really controlling and or just like totally casual. And it has a lot to do with who's running the place. And you could say this about congregations too, right? Like any church. But I agree with you that as a whole, they are a cult. But they're a Trinitarian cult, which makes them unique. Yeah? Really unique. You don't have a lot of Trinitarian cults. So, yeah. Got out by grace alone. There's a book, Out of the Darkness. I don't think it's about Seventh-day, though. I think it's about Jehovah's Witnesses. Let's see. What did I neglect to mention? The Lutheran understanding of baptism and just seem very alter colly. Oh, that must not have been me. Oh, there's more of this. Okay, here we go. I was like, really? I don't remember the altar call this morning. I'm a pre-sem student at CUAA, Concordia University, Ann Arbor. Yeah, right. And it's Michigan. I am curious, or you just call it Ann Arbor. That makes more sense to me. I'm curious on your take on how we conduct some of our services. For example, 3 students were baptized at the end of the last school year on campus. The pastor neglected to mention the Lutheran understanding of baptism and just seemed very alter-colly overall. He gives very watered-down theology that panders to the majority on campus instead of holding strictly to our LCMS. To our LCMS what? Doctrine? Yeah. Is this just a college campus thing? Don't you know we're at war? We really are. We're at war. We're at war against the lies. We're at war against the untruth. And the untruth is wielded by those who want to placate the flesh. Oh, man. I think we got to do a little Bible on this one. Let's see. Oh, I don't want to show you that. Don't look at that. Oh, you can't see it. Good. Okay. Sorry, I'm laughing. It's just the dashboard for YouTube. I still don't want you to see it. But we're gonna go find some Bible. And I'm gonna get it on the screen. Bible. Friendship. We're gonna look up friendship in the Bible. Let's see here. I can maybe get us to do. What is it gonna be? 3. Wait. No, I don't. My session expired. Whatever. Oh, wait a minute. That's why. Do this. 3. No, I didn't do it. Why? Oh, because clicking that doesn't put me back onto Ecamm. Interesting. So I got to go here to do that. And then if I do this, what happens? Come now. Let us reason together. All right. So now if I do this and come over here, aha, behold. All right. James. There we go. I thought we were going to go to John, but it looks like we're going to James. Here we are. Here's the challenge, right? Here's the challenge, is we all want good things. And, man, he's going to say a lot here. I want to know where he's going to be saying what I want to say. Come on, man. Where is it? Okay, there it is. All right. Sorry, that was loud. So we all want good things. And the challenge is that wanting good things can lead us astray from the faith. And this happens to pastors. This happens to people. I mean, look at it. James is going to diagnose why we fight each other. He's talking to Christians. Not to the rest of the world. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? Why, and I'm pausing here, right? Why is it that Christians disagree and disagree to the level where there is division among us? It's all because of our passions, because we want things. We want stuff. We want to desire and have. You desire and do not have, verse 2 says. So you murder. Now, he's being a little harsh with the murder accusation, but he's really going with the Jesus and the Sermon on the Mount level of murder and saying that murder is to despise, hate, talk against your brother, right? You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. Because you ask, I skipped a line. You do not have because you do not ask, right? So you are not really truly praying, no matter how much you think you're truly praying. Because if you really were truly praying, you'd have what you asked for. So maybe you're asking for the wrong thing. But that's okay. I mean, God, that could be truly praying too, as long as you take the answer no and are content with it. You ask, you do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions, right? It's all about having stuff. Being happy, getting what I want. You adulterous people, right? Don't you know, and this is the line we're trying to get to, don't you know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? How do I get that little, I hate this. I can do it like this though. Come on. Nope, fail. Yes, it's not a fail entirely, for Pete's sake. I gotta move this, and he always does that. There we go. Just let those words sink into your head for a second, right? Epistle of straw. We don't need this book, James. No, we don't need this book. Well, I don't think Luther meant that when he said that. I think Luther was really angry at the Roman Catholic Church for reinterpreting one line in order to dismiss the rest of the Bible. And so he was frustrated by that and how by itself that one line can't really be translated a different way, but has to be understood in its context as being about your relationship with your neighbor. So that's what he meant when he said epistle of straw. And if anything, it was his passions at work at that moment. I believe that the story may even be, I can't remember if it's actually something he wrote or if this is just like an apocryphal story that's told about him. I don't even know. Maybe it doesn't matter in a sense, but it's not an epistle of straw. It's a letter from the brother of Jesus, probably. And he is right. And this line should be treated like the inspired, inerrant, holy word of God, that friendship with the world is enmity with God. That is hatred. That is war against God. Now, that ain't no joke, man. Right? That ain't no joke at all. Like, I like my coffee, but friendship with the world is enmity with God. Well, it doesn't mean I can't have coffee, but when the day comes, I got to choose, right? Which one's which? I'll take a sip now while I can. So let's do a backflip with this verse here. And let's look at like what it means going the other direction. So if you are someone who is charged with bringing the word of God to people, and you don't like how bringing the word of God to people who are at enmity with God makes them at enmity with you, and you maybe even believe some of the heterodox teaching floating out there in American Christianity that people not believing what you've preached or taught has everything to do with the way in which you personally have preached or taught it, then, well, maybe you might start trying to seek ways to make them believe what you're saying. Now, there's an edge to that, which is actually okay. I mean, you do want to speak clearly and learn how to, right? Those are good things. But maybe you start to realize that some of the things that are actually there to be said are, well, the things that people don't like. And no matter how nicely you say them, they still don't like them. And so, well, in order to convince them to come into God, you just don't mention those things. You spin them a little differently. You say it a little bit differently. And so by making a friendship with the world yourself in that very moment, you then set yourself against God and begin to prune his word. Yeah? And you don't really even know you're doing that by the time you're doing that. You don't know. You have no idea you're doing that. It's what you're doing, but you don't know. Because you're blind. That's what the insane blindness of unbelief, that's what it is. O Lord, preserve me from hidden sins. David says this for good reason. Oh, heaven help us. But the challenge is, my friend, wherever you go, forget LCMS, forget which university, wherever you go on this planet, in this life, you're going to have Christianity that is not Christianity because it has decided that friendship with the world is friendship with God. And as a result, in fact, is at enmity with God and is, well, heterodox, yes. Yeah, to the level of who's saved in a heterodox church? That's a good question. Who's saved in a heterodox church? Who's saved in an Orthodox church? Huh? Well, who's saved in an Orthodox church is the one who has faith in the orthodoxy, not of the church, but of the God who is preaching the orthodoxy, right? Okay, well, who's saved in a heterodox church? The person who has faith in the orthodoxy that is preached in that church. The challenge in the heterodox church is that there is also heterodoxy. So what is your faith in? And how much faith in orthodoxy do you need in order to actually be saved on the last day? Which is not to say, like, how many right answers do I have to have, but how long until I don't trust in Jesus to be my Savior anymore? How much leaven does it take to leaven the loaf to that level? Right? That's kind of the question. And that question needs to be asked everywhere all the time. Not forget like some other guy preaching somewhere. Ask it in your own life first, man. Get the log out of your eye, right? I'm not mad at you. I'm talking to myself when I say this. Like, how much leaven do I allow in my life? How much heterodoxy am I willing to tolerate? Oh, I don't see any. Well, that doesn't mean it ain't there, brother. In fact, maybe that's all the more reason to pray, Lord, have mercy, and have a little fear. I think if we all had that prayer and that little fear, we'd have a lot better effects together reasoning from the scriptures unto orthodoxy, because we'd be approaching it with the scriptures being our sole rule and norm rather than our experience or what we already think we know. But it is something to be aware of, that it's always there. It's there in your flesh, and it's going to be there in your congregation, even an Orthodox one. It's going to be there. Where do false teachers arise from? They will arise from among you, Jesus says, right? After I have left, Paul says it too. So it's a war you never stop fighting. And for that reason, please don't be surprised when then out there in the world, you find that war going on with people on the other side of it. Yeah, gonna happen, man. Gonna happen. And it's not like they're your enemy personally. Like I hate you and let's get swords, right? Like that's not gonna do much. Well, I mean, it would do something, but not what we want, really, right? The wrong thing. But they are your enemy in the faith, because they're not going to give you any, right? I mean, How else can we say that? I know they don't like that. If they're on the other side of this argument in some way, right? And you're like in the LCMS and you don't think I'm right about this or some things we would like really disagree about. Like you don't think you're the enemy of my faith, but don't you think then I'm the enemy of yours? Just by saying that? Like aren't we then like opposed to each other in the faith and like what creates and sustains faith? I mean, we're enemies in the faith. I mean how else do you do it, right? Doesn't mean we have to hate each other. In fact, the Christian who has an enemy in the faith loves his enemy. So if you're going to hate me because I'm your enemy in the faith, then, well, that just affirms my position, doesn't it now? I mean, crazy thought, that one. Crazy thought. So expect to find enemies in the faith in the household of God and expect to be angered by the lies that they don't even know that they believe and are preaching, deceiving even themselves. We're told, I think it's Jude, could be 2 Peter. Don't be surprised. And don't hate them. Love them, be concerned, be able to shield yourself with the shield of faith in the right things. Yeah. Rest of verse 4 right there, right? Whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. Right? You want to have church growth? I mean, that's the question right there. Whoever wishes to grow the church makes himself an enemy of God. Wow. That's some stuff right there. That's some, what do they call that? That's some good medicine. There you go. I love using pagan words to say Christian things. That's some good medicine. And yeah. Do you suppose it's to no purpose that Scripture says he yearns jealously over the Spirit that he has made to dwell in us? But he gives more grace. Therefore, it says God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Submit yourselves, therefore, to God. Resist the devil. Where's the devil? In the lies. Resist the devil, he will flee from you. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Where do you do that? In the Lord's Supper. Think about it. Cleanse your hands, you sinners. Purify your hearts, you double-minded. Where would I cleanse my hands? In the remembrance of holy baptism, perhaps. Purify my heart, holy absolution, double-minded indeed, sinful, and yet saint. Be wretched, mourn, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning and your joy to gloom. Why is that not a praise song? You turn our laughter into mourning and our joy into gloom. Why? They just don't sing that one. I don't know why. It's so catchy too. And humble yourselves before the Lord, he will exalt you. There is a song about that one. And it's all about how the music lifts you up with a minor chord change at the right time. They don't say that. They just say the Lord, but that is what it does. It's very catchy. Don't speak evil against one another. Am I speaking evil? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Am I speaking evil of the one who is preaching falsely by saying that he is preaching falsely and is the enemy of God? Or am I speaking good of him by telling the truth, right? So to not speak evil against one another is to not seek the harm of another or to share only an opinion, which someone may accuse the Word of God of being only an opinion, so you have to know the Word of God well enough to know when that's true and that's not. Yeah, but it is not speaking evil to speak good. When good is truth, and good hurts. Good is not always... So when the doctor tells you have cancer, did he speak evil? When the doctor tells you have diabetes and you need to deal with it, is he speaking evil? Or are you evil? Right? I mean, you're not evil because you have diabetes, right? But the bad thing is you at that point, right? Like the thing that's a problem is inside your body and needs to be dealt with, not the words that are diagnosing the problem. That's where the health and the good medicine, look at how that came together. That's where the good medicine is going to come from. If you judge the law, you are not a doer of the law, but a judge. So don't judge the law. There's only one lawgiver and judge. He who is able to save and destroy. Who are you to judge your neighbor? Right? It's not about having truth, right? That is not about judge not lest ye be judged does not mean there is no truth. Or that you should never speak the truth. It means know who the real judge is and only live according to his judgments. You are not to judge your neighbor by yourself, right? The Word of God is to judge all things. So, yeah, I mean, get used to it. And there's a lot. Missouri Synod pastor, it's a real mixed bag, man. It's a real mixed bag. There's some crazy out there too. I mean, you can divide us all into like 2 camps, and then you can divide us all into like 4 or 5 kind of semi-minor camps that make up those 2 camps. And then you can divide us into, there is some crazy on all corners and sides, stuff you just wouldn't believe is going on out there. You got people advocating apostolic succession, which is against the confessions. You got people doing like crazy healing services and speaking in tongues. You got some guy, he's still out in California in Coronado, who constantly, every synod convention, he's sending motions about women's ordination. And I think he's starting ones about homosexual marriage now in favor of them, right? And it's always there. And he's a very cantankerous guy who happened to be at my ordination and didn't even know what he was doing. I love it. He probably doesn't. He might remember. He might remember if he ever were to see this. He's pretty old now, though, too. He may be retired. But he still sends these things. So we got it on every corner, every edge. The whole spectrum of Christianity almost exists here, right? You got East-leaning guys. You do have guys. I mean, there isn't anybody who says we have to go back to the Pope yet, because those guys just go back to the Pope. But they show up sometimes. And before they go back to the Pope, they teach a lot and take people with them. So just don't think, oh, LCMS, we're safe. No. So to find some guy doing an altar call-y thing with 3 students being baptized, to not talk about baptism, that is a very odd thing for someone who says, I want to be a Lutheran to do, but you just got to get used to it. There's a lot of people who want to be a Lutheran for weird reasons. I don't want to be a Lutheran. Yeah, let me explain that here. I think it's the worst marketing name in the world. It is useless to us. It is so bad. The best that it does to the people who don't know, right, is they go and they're like, oh, Martin Luther, Wikipedia, oh, he was a Nazi because he said the Jews are bad, right? And that's like that's our marketing platform right there, that Wikipedia talks about how he was a anti-Semite. Yay for us, that's our name. We follow him. What does that mean? We don't follow him. It's a terrible name. I know you have conservatives that make the argument that we should embrace it because it's historical. Okay, fine. Yeah, I don't disagree with the concept there, but I do disagree with the wisdom of it. It's not pragmatic. It's not working. Because the other thing it does is you go out, I'm a Lutheran. Oh, the ones with the lady pastors who are like, you got the rainbow flags and stuff, right? Those guys. Oh, no, those are the other Lutherans. They're not really Lutheran like us. Well, what's the difference? Oh, we have this thing called the Book of Concord. Not the Book of Lutheran? No, it's the Book of Concord. Oh, well then, how is that Lutheran? Right? Well, you just have no actual marketing. Imagine if our churches all still had the name on them that most of them did when they were started in the 1800s. Like, I mean, the one here. It was still there up until, I'm trying to remember, I've been looking at constitutions recently, up until the 50s-ish. St. Paul Evangelical Lutheran Church of the Unaltered Augsburg Confession. I call that marketable. I really do. UAC. And I don't know if I'd even say it UAC, but St. Paul, how would it be? It would be St. Paul Congregation of the Augsburg Confession. Right? And we would be like the United Church of the Augsburg Confession or something like that. I don't know. As opposed to LCMS, right? The Missourian. We could keep Missouri. The Church of the Augsburg Confession, Missouri Synod. Hey, there you go. Yeah, it's all right. I don't mind that. But so, what was I getting on this? Lutheran. Oh, I don't even want to be Lutheran. So this is why. So I don't understand, like with how bad the name is as a marketing platform, I can't understand why people want to be here and then not be actually clinging to like our history, doctrine, practice. Why? I mean, I'd much rather go somewhere to an independent church body where I can like market it well. And in a lot of the bigger churches in the Missouri Synod have started doing that. Have you ever noticed they changed their names? Pathfinder. Do you know, I wonder if anybody raised their hand and said, that's like Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, right? Like, nobody else plays Dungeons and Dragons in here? But I can't hear it without thinking D&D. And that's not going to go away, I think, in the world. Yeah, why? But get used to it. They're going to be here. Are they here because it's their family's church and it's where they grew up? Are they here because there is a pretty decent health and retirement plan? Kind of. Very expensive. It's hard on the congregations, but it is good for the pastors who often are poor stewards and don't save and do retire unprepared. And so it's not such a bad thing. Maybe that's why they're here. Sometimes the devil just does the devil stuff. Chaos. I heard, is it Candace Owens? I tried out the Candace Owens podcast. It's okay. I like Candace Owens. I think she's like she's got cool stuff to say. She's got to work on interviewing skills though. She's a little, she's fresh. I'm just judgy. But I liked a piece that came out of a conversation between her and Dennis Prager, who also, I'd never heard him speak before. I like the PragerU videos. usually. But I never heard him speak before, and it was underwhelming, I guess is the word I would say. But he had this one point that I thought was really interesting, and it was about, now if you're political, this is going to be slightly political, but it's trying to make a point that really isn't political. So I want to use it in that way. So don't get too mad at me about it. But what he said was that, the far left progressivism, right? The true progressivism. So if you're just a liberal, he's not talking about you. In fact, he'll even say that it's not liberalism. But the far progressive, he said, if you really try to dig, you can't find out what they're for, only what they're against. They're not really for anything. They're just against things, which ends up being a servant of chaos, because what they're against is whatever conservatives are for. If you're conservative about anything, even if you are a liberal person, but you're conservative about a thing, there is a progressive out there who thinks that you are, a Nazi for that, right? So, that makes them sort of an agent of chaos. Now, that idea, what I want to pull from, whatever, we can argue it in the political square, fine. I want to pull that, though, into theology here and say that that is the way the devil works. That is the way the devil works. And so please don't expect heresy and heterodoxy to have a reasonable reason. Don't expect it, because it doesn't. The devil's going to use the passions, which are our emotions, which are, by nature kind of unreasonable. He's going to use the passions of individuals to sow chaos. Do you remember, the last thing Heath Ledger did before he died as an actor? A character he played, the Joker, in The Dark Knight. It's a dark movie. It's a hard movie. Well, he is the devil in that. Batman's like, why are you doing this, right? Why are you doing this? No reason to do this. Chaos. Destroy. That's not even a reason. That's a reason enough. Just destroy. And so don't expect it to make sense, right? If you're going to go to seminary, man, don't expect this fight to make sense. Expect to fight all sorts of Joker chaos out there in every corner. And what it will be against is God. It will be friendship with the world. That then ultimately is enemy of your faith. Enemy of your faith that wants to take away the words that keep you in the faith. Yeah? All right, you guys have been popping some comments. So I'm going to scroll down and kind of look at them a little bit here again going forward. What time is it? Oh, man, we're almost to an hour already. Good morning, Rev Fisk. Hey, Steve MC. I haven't even read it. Maybe it says something really bad. Good morning, Rev Fisk. Here's my question. I grew up exposed to the gospel, but only really accepted it at age 12 in what can be described as a born-again experience. And my life indeed changed in direction, but I began a serious walk in Christ. I was only able to get baptized recently, age 23. So, this is like a novel, man. It's kind of fun. So my question is this. From a Lutheran perspective, what would be considered the moment of my salvation? Or is it more complex? Yep, you got it. Last one right there. More complex. It is more complex than that. I mean, my friend. Okay, this is fun, though. I like this. This is good. The moment of your salvation was when Jesus died on the cross. That was, it is finished. Yeah, I think it is finished was first, and then the last breath. Yeah, and there he goes. His spirit goes off. It is accomplished. That was the moment of your salvation. The moment that you received that salvation as a guarantee and pledge from the Holy Spirit was your baptism. Yeah. But your baptism is not a moment. Your baptism is, your baptism is not a moment, except for that it is the moment that Christ died on the cross. Like crossing moments transcosmically through space-time and history, so that the water and word as this like mystical force, sorry, I can't see now because I moved a set up, as a mystical force is Jesus and you as one dying on the cross in that moment, not in the church so much as, 2,000 years ago. You're like, well, that's kind of miraculous. Yes. It is. And so, but in that sense, then, as far as you've experienced it, that is the moment you most will ever experience your actual salvation. That moment. But it's not a moment in that way either, because that moment that you experience, your actual salvation is, well, it is your entire life in Christ. So it's like, I don't know how to say it. It's almost like if somebody dropped a seed into the ground and it sent its roots to the left and it sent its roots to the right. And to the left, it went a long way, and to the right, it went a short way. But in both places, it found root and took hold. Well, that is the Word of God in your life, of which baptism is the high point of it, especially singly, once for all, only in this place, speaking to you alone and to no other human being ever. Right? That's baptism. I pledge it to you now, personally, by name. But the roots of that word extended out before you were baptized, but they extended out into your baptism, not separate from it. It's not like just some spice, some salt you're throwing around, and you get a little here, a little there, right? No, it's a tree. He's the vine. You're the branch, right? And so it sent it out before your baptism to call, to gather, to enlighten, to justify, to save. And you were rightly then saved. And you were saved through your baptism into Christ, even though it hadn't happened yet, at least so far as you experienced it. But it had happened on the cross, which is why if somebody dies before actually getting to experience it, but they do believe in Christ, it doesn't mean that they aren't baptized. You got to be careful with that a little bit. You can take that the wrong way, but they're in Christ. The fathers would say that they were baptized in their own blood. The Father will not leave you unbaptized if you have faith. And the only way to get to Christ is to be washed in Him and with Him, and there's no difference, right? The biggest difference is your experience of it for the sake of your faith. So the point of the baptism being outside of you and in your experience is not because God needs it. It's because you need it. You need to be able to have it to hold certainty. So in the time of doubt, you can look back and say, yes, indeed, there was one moment in my life where God actually declared to me, not me declaring to Him, not me accepting, not me bending the knee, not me commanding, not me deciding I'm going to follow Him now. God declared to you, you're mine. And then those roots are going to go out from here to, Lord willing, the end of your life. Will we walk in danger all the way? You can't fall away, but there's no reason to expect to. The thing to expect is that the Lord will keep you, cherish you, bless you. Expect of yourself falling away. Expect of the Lord Him keeping you. Pray, Lord, have mercy when you're thinking about yourself, and say amen when He says the gospel back. That too is your baptism, dying and rising in that very real, very experiential tentatio, suffering, trial, struggle, all life long, until in death it completes you. Not as though baptism is incomplete, but your death, died in Christ, is lingering. Yeah? You're fully dead in Christ, but your body hasn't figured it out yet. It will eventually. And at that moment, the baptism which you already have and are is only life and no longer any death at all. Yeah? And the faith which remains and you which remain in that faith are in Christ, as you have been all along, in your baptism into Him, even before you were baptized. Yeah? You following me still? And then you wait and you rest until that same body, baptized, is completed even more by its resurrection, which will be done with Christ's body that has also been put into you through the supper, so that on the last day you're raised up with flesh and blood that can never die. Yeah? All that's baptism. The baptism doesn't go away. The washing of regeneration is eternal. And an eternal thing can't really be a moment, can it now? Yeah? It has to be forever and always, and even infinite in a way. So the Christ crucified before the foundation of the world that Paul speaks of is also baptism, because it is His death as the chief sinner, carrying the sins of the world, washing them away in Himself, down into the history of time where we see it in that one glorious and terrifying dark sky moment, and then spreckling out in every direction from there, the real route, right, going out and reaching to grab forward and backward through baptism, and then through the shadows, circumcision, Passover, all that, in the other direction. Yeah, you with me? That'd be my answer to that. But see, the question is a wrong-headed, fundamentalist American question. Why do you care? I don't mean to be mean or anything, but why do you care what the moment of your salvation was. Right? The answer is too complex. There's many. Yeah. You'll have more too. Every time you remember your salvation, it's the moment of your salvation. When Paul says today is the day of salvation, he means it for Christians too. Every day, today is the day of salvation. So every time you go to the Lord's Supper, you're receiving salvation. It's a moment of salvation. We are creatures who live in time, but in time we only live in the present moment. And so because our faith is weak and being attacked by the flesh at all times, we need a continual string of moments of salvation in order to stay in the faith. Otherwise, we would lose faith. Baptism is again a pledge and a guarantee of a final ultimate reality, but then you have things like the supper that comes to feed and sustain that same guarantee. Those are all moments of salvation. When you have the absolution spoken over you, it's a moment of salvation. When you hear the gospel again and you say amen, it's a moment of salvation. So why would you even care to find like the real one, right? It is such a fundamentalist assumption that it even matters. And it's because you have to look back on that moment of this internal movement of your heart as the only confidence you can ever have. So they're starving for it, right? Because they can't have any confidence because the heart's so friggin', waffly all the time. Did I really believe? I'm not really sure. Right? Forever and ever. And so the question's the wrong question. It's not, was baptism the moment of my salvation? The question is baptism salvation? Yes, absolutely. It's Jesus' salvation of you. But a moment? No, not at all, really. Not at all. Stuck in a moment. I can't get out of it. All right, that was bad music. All right, Bono's better. I'm a better theologian than Bono. He's a much better singer. All right, so have I read or watched Mr. Jonathan Strange? I saw that. I really stopped watching TV. Not because I'm like trying to. I just don't have time. Inspire me greatly in my writing. Yeah, it might. I don't have time for writing. I don't have time for TV. And then part of that's because I've started. You're going to hear me talking about some of this because I won't be able not to, but I really don't want you to confuse it with Christianity at all. But again, I've been on a health journey that I'm very thankful for because it really did solve a few things for me. I think it's never going to end, but it's kind of amazing. I've had a couple of shifts that were highly unexpected. And one of them has been sleep patterns. And if you watch or have listened in the last couple of years to stuff I've been doing, I have sleep apnea, which means that my throat has some extra flesh. And so when I sleep, I close, I'll be so deep asleep, the muscles will cease to be firm and it'll close and I will literally then have no oxygen and choke, right? And in order to not die, the body has a safety mechanism to stop you from dying on your own choking, and it's called waking up. And so you wake up, you don't really know you wake up. It's like how sometimes you kind of roll over at night, that kind of thing. And a certain number of these happen to everybody anyway over the course of a nighttime. But it really impacts deep and REM sleep, which is your restorative and regenerative sleep. And so I have what's called a mild sleep apnea, which means this was happening to me when I was tested upwards of 10 times an hour. So 10 times an hour, I'm waking up because I'm without oxygen. Even a mild sleep apnea like that, certainly by the time you're 40, it really begins to impact you and how you feel health-wise, physically. And it also is a tremendous danger to you because the things you don't feel, like your heart, are being stressed and taxed enormously by it. And so dealing with sleep apnea is a very important thing. Some people have it genetically, like me. It also can just be a nutritional issue. Size can have something to do with it as well. So I was diagnosed with that a couple years ago, and that really helped my sleep in general, helped my emotions tremendously. But my sleep patterns didn't change. I still would go to bed at midnight and wake up when I had to, which because of radio was usually around 7 if I had to, but I hated it with passion. And then I was going to get out of radio. Yeah. And it's I might be able to sleep in once in a while. But I was also on this other kind of nutrition journey for a variety of reasons, trying to deal with things like being pre-diabetic and cholesterol, all this kind of stuff. And some of the most recent stuff I've been doing, it is the daftest thing ever. I started wanting to go to bed 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, I'm kind of tired. And then waking up at like 5 a.m. And I'm like, what happened to Jonathan? I mean, that's like, dude, I used to sleep till like 11, right? Like college, post college, like if I could, till like 11 a.m., right? I could sleep 10 hours, 11 hours easy. Now, some of that was a sleep apnea, right? 10 hours, 11. I'm going with like 5, 6 hours a night right now. And it feels great, which is just, I don't get it other than the nutritional change, which is like, that's really cool. I'm still, part of the reason I don't want to tell you what I'm doing is because it's still like only been a month, right? So I don't want to be like cult leader on this kind of thing, but it's just, it's really interesting to me. And then, this is all your question, Gorman. I should leave this question up here so you're like, you know why I'm talking about this. And so, well, okay. So now I'm like just going to bed earlier. Well, that's when I used to watch TV, right? I would watch TV from like 9:30, 9:45, get the kids to bed. Mary and I maybe sit out there. Maybe I'd do it. Maybe I'd play a video game. But that's when I would do it. It was from then until midnight or so. And that time's just gone. This is gone. I get up and I'm not going to go watch TV at 5 a.m. I go and I'm working on the Book of Hours and doing a little meditation. It's fantastic. I love it. Without coffee, there's no caffeine in this system right now too. It's just mind-boggling to me. But as a result, no, I haven't watched it. I don't know that I'll be able to. I don't know how I'm gonna get TV back in my life. It's a problem I have to solve because I still have real life confessions. My wife and I still have 2 seasons of Game of Thrones we've not watched. And I know I've heard enough to know that the last episode, people didn't like it. Okay, it's cool, fine. But really, I can't just leave that sitting there. I got to know how that ends. So. Hey, I don't know what we're going to do. And we love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We watched all those seasons. I know there's like 1 more season, 2 more seasons of that we haven't seen. But I don't know when we're going to do it. Then there's a whole other side of this is learning that blue light in the evening impacts your deep sleep and recovery patterns in your brain. And it makes it so you don't even start your deep sleep until 2 or 3 hours later. And so even knowing that now, I don't want to start watching TV again after 9 or 10 at night. So I don't know what we're going to do. But thank you for the rec. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate it. Excuse me. What would be? Oh, we already did that one. All right. I'm getting texts from my wife about Christmas stuff. So I don't know if you can see this. You shouldn't be able to. But I'm going to scoot over here. This is what makes Mac awesome. Just this, that you can do your text messages on the computer. I think they are cool and may be able to be used creatively. Creatively, I would say keep them for now. There we go. Boom, boom. All right. They're looking at through old Christmas stuff at the building that we're leaving. Elizabeth says, can one who thought one's parents baptized them but they didn't then actually baptize oneself when they make the sign of the cross with water? That's fun. This may apply only to my deceased Roman Catholic Oma. I don't think so. I don't know. And for that reason, right, what is the point of baptism? The certainty of your faith to know that God has spoken to you. Can you do that to yourself? It wouldn't be certain at that point because the answer is we don't know. So it undoes the purpose. Does that mean it didn't happen? It's not magic. This is so tough, though. It is magic, but it's not magic. Right? It is magic in the sense it's a miracle, but it's not magic in that it's not an incantation. It's not like God is active without the faith of men. It's not that the faith of men makes him active. It is that the word has created the faith in them, which is then pushing the word further. Yeah. So God is there according to the word, enlivening them in faith, and the word comes out again to do it again. Now, did she have that? Well, kinda. But I don't know. But like I was saying before, I don't want to say baptism doesn't matter because it totally does. But if she was never baptized and she went to church her whole life believing she was baptized and trusting in Jesus, well, then she was, right? She's in Christ. And to be in Christ is to be baptized. Well, then why do we need baptism? Because he told us we need it. That's why. And it's not that hard because you do need it for your faith. She believed a false promise that ultimately was a true promise, right? as opposed to a false promise is really false? That's a fascinating question, Elizabeth. I mean, and I don't know if my answer is really right on that one. I'm willing to have someone say, he's wrong about that. That's fine. Yeah, because that's a tough one. That's really tough. But I would say we just don't know in that regard. But I wouldn't worry about her salvation either. Yeah? Okay, so that's this is all way back comments. All right, let's go. We're going to go to the end. What are you guys talking about right now? Is this the new Ask the Pastor 3.0? No, Saturday Morning Chill. Ask the Pastor was part of Worldview Everlasting, a organization that no longer exists, a nonprofit 501c3 with certain tax-required and intellectual property realities that I have no intention of ever violating. Yeah. So, but it is a time to ask questions. And yes, the intention is Saturday mornings at 9. I will maybe be here some ishish times, right? I don't know. I don't know how good Saturdays will ultimately be. It's probably good for you though, right? So yeah, gonna try it for a while. See what happens. Are you the guy that makes the sausages, Jimmy Dean? Or somebody else? Our family actually went 3 years without cable, satellite, or streaming. If we wanted to watch something, we rented at a DVD store. You know about the library, right? Free. To be honest, it was refreshing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not missing it, except for that I don't miss TV. I miss story. I like story. I've stopped reading too. Like I mean, I don't mean in general. Well, a little bit too much in general, but like it has been a lifelong habit. I'm gonna say since I was 17. That to go to bed means to get a good fiction book and read at least 5, 6, 10 pages in it and then fall asleep. That's just been a lifelong thing. And I'm not doing it because I'm ready for bed. I'm ready for bed. You might think, well, that's unhealthy. 10 o'clock, you're ready for bed. Yeah, but I'm waking up at 5. And I'm going, right? So I kind of miss that too. Part of the issue is I've had a real trial finding fiction books that will drive me. Like I've started, this is so awful. I've started just reading Amazon samples, right? So it's like they give you like the first, 15 pages. That's all I read. Like I read the sample. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. And I just get another one. And I don't know if that's really good or bad. I kind of like to think I could read a fiction book again and not be bored by it. I don't know if it's the level of the writing. I picked up Fellowship of the Ring again. I'm like, well, if I can't enjoy this, I don't know what's wrong with me, right? And it's all right. Fellowship wasn't ever my favorite. I like Two Towers better. I probably should have started with Two Towers. But I really want to get into Moriah. So I started like the chapter before Moriah, and now I'm kind of skipping through it because I really want to get to Moriah. But I don't know. I don't know what's up with my story love, but I love stories. So it's, yeah, movies. It's going to have to come down to movies. We did go as a family and watch, what was it? What just came out? We went and saw it. It was Marvel. Oh, wait, hold on. Spider-Man: Far From Home. Good flick. It's got a little. They're touching on the social justice stuff just a little bit much, but they don't do it too bad. And it was an enjoyable flick. Mysterio's pretty sweet. He's a sweet bad guy. I didn't know much about him or anything really at all, other than that he had a big glassy head. But it was a well done movie. Really good. So we'll still do that at least. I just love story. All right. The Mistborn series. Yeah, I got through it. It was clever. I like Sanderson kind of in general. I discovered him when he finished the Robert Jordan stuff, which thank goodness, right? I'm sorry. I really mean it. Thank God. I mean it. I'm not cursing. Thank God that Brandon Sanderson finished Robert Jordan stuff that Robert Jordan had just butchered, right? Because the early ones were really good, and then it was just awful. I mean, I don't even know if her name's right. Nineveh. I mean, what? Well, she doesn't even belong in the series. Get that woman out of here. So rude. Anyway, if you know, then you know, and if you don't, then you don't. But even like Gwen, got really nasty. Anyway, so thank goodness he finished that. And I did Mistborn. I did the one with the sword and the color. That was interesting. I did like the second book in the Stormlight. Really enjoyed that. I've read that twice now. I've read book 1 and 2 twice. Book 3 underwhelmed me. Really, I reread it to get ready for book 3, and I just was like, this is. Can you pick it up? And he does this. He doesn't tell you interesting, fast-paced things for a long time to do a lot of setup for an interesting, fast-paced thing that's awesome, right? And I if I could tell him as a fan, right, I just wish you'd just do that fast-paced thing a lot, because golly, you're good at it. Yeah, but the slow build is just pretty tough. But Mistborn, I love his world building. By the way, the Mistborn concept, right? You're in this world where magic is all connected to metal, and having the metal either in your body or being able to it's having the metal in your body or being able to store your strengths in the metal that's on your body. It's really clever how he does it as a world building thing. And they're not bad books. I mean, they're not bad. They dragged. First one was enough really for me. I didn't need the rest of them. I've heard he's doing like a steampunk one with guns and stuff. I don't know. Bacon beats sausage. Not on pizza, for sure, which I don't eat anymore, by the way. I probably do sometimes, rarely, but it doesn't. Sausage is better. And let's see. I want to say that, like, in eggs, I'd take sausage. Straight, yeah, bacon. On a steak, bacon. On a burger, bacon. In a sandwich, bacon. So I mean, maybe like in the world stage of competition, you're right. You're probably right. But sausage is kind of special, isn't it? I mean, it really does a special thing when it does it. So I don't know. I don't know. It's not a ninjas pirates kind of thing. It's not just an obvious one's better all the time kind of thing. It's more of it's more apples oranges here, I think. Yeah. So good stuff. Let's see what else we got. You guys are still with me, so I'm gonna keep going. This is fun. Sleep improvement thing. All right, cool. What? Notice a similar sleep improvement taking ashwagandha and cordyceps. Oh, I wish I could take cordyceps. Lion's mane and cordyceps are incompatible, so have alternate every few days. Lion's mane is sweet too. Dude, I was so into mushrooms. Okay, this was like 2-3 years ago now, when this stuff was just kind of coming west a little bit. I mean, I got into the now what are they called? The coffees. Four Sigmatic. I was into that stuff before like you could buy it anywhere. I had to order it online, and I thought, this is so cool what this stuff does, and I didn't even realize it wasn't doing anything for me. And the reason is because I'm intolerant to mushrooms, and it was giving me constant diarrhea for like 3 months straight, and I had to go to the doctor. I go to the doctor, and I'm like, why is this happening? I haven't stopped pooping for a really long time. And the doctor's like, well, we'll do some tests, and then you have to capture a stool sample. And I'm like, oh man, that was fun. And then you take it in, and they call you back, you have a parasite. What? You have a parasite. We need to give you medicine. So I take some medicine, and we do it again. You still have a parasite. It was the wrong parasite. Now we're going to do another. They did another test. We're not sure you have a parasite. Have you been eating a lot of mushrooms? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you should stop doing that. And then I can't. Apparently, I have an intolerance to mushrooms. So all this cool stuff you're getting to experience with cordyceps and lion's mane, like, people, try it out, right? This is sweet. This is a food group we forgot was there in the West for some reason, and it's medicinal, but not like in a magic way. But like, if you like your caffeine and you want to keep drinking your coffee, you get the coffee with that cordyceps in it. It should. I don't know if you'll go back. Flavor's not going to matter that much. Actually, the flavor's pretty good in the coffees they make, and I think you'll like what it does up here to that noggin a little bit. Lion's mane too. I wish, man. I'm so jealous. The Shroom Tech also. I still have a can of this or a bottle of it I can't take. So Onnit, ONNIT, this.com. They sell supplements of various kinds, some really cool workout equipment, and they have one called Shroom Tech, which puts a number of the most useful so-called medicinal mushrooms, or there's some reishi in there and whatnot. So, and it's an immune booster. I wish I could take it, because this, if anything, in like the supplement world, has like a thousands of years old tradition of actually doing something. It's the mushrooms. And so check that stuff out. Cool stuff, Gourmand. Gourmand Mod. What does that mean? I want to say gourmand, and you're not. You're Gourmand Mod, and you're not a mod for Minecraft. So I don't know who you are or what you are. I definitely can relate to. Can you talk more about your journey at some point? I need to get my situation filled out. Yes, absolutely. I will have to, because it's humanity, and I don't know where I'm going to do it or when. But what I don't want to do, right? And this is, if someone sent me I will do this in the next Mad Christian podcast, which is going to be either next week or soon thereafter. Someone had sent me a really good comment, which was a concern as a former evangelical turned Lutheran, about hearing a pastor who preaches the gospel clearly. Thank you for the compliment. I try. Talking about things that are not the gospel. Yeah. And how it is like a red flag for a former evangelical, because in their churches, like one way or the other, all they ever hear about is life improvement, which is true, right? And what are you going to do, right? How does this fit? Is sort of his question. I think it's a really good question. It's part of my frustration. It's part of why I'm the mad Christian. If you haven't listened to my last podcast, please go listen to that one, please. Refist.podbean.com. Yeah, it connects to this a lot. Because the big issue, the reason I'm mad, is because we've lost the ability to talk about this as Lutherans. And I would say I'm also mad that, the evangelicals only talk about it and don't talk about Jesus. And I'm convinced I know exactly why. It's not that hard. We don't believe in the first article of the creed as Lutherans. And the evangelicals don't believe in the distinction between the first and the second articles of the creed, just like the pagans, who don't believe in the distinction either. And as a result, they're always confusing salvation with the creation, right? Lutherans, not wanting to do that, have just decided that the creation doesn't exist. Now, they're going to say, no, we haven't, but we have. Practically, we have. Now, in what we actually do, totally have. Yep. Otherwise, you would never say Christianity has no impact on your health or diet, because it should, if you believe that the creation exists and that God made it in order, and that there are certain things we can study and know and understand. Well, then you would believe that we could study and know and understand certain things, right? I mean, you believe this enough that you don't drink gasoline, right? I love you, honey. You know this enough that you don't drink gasoline, right? So why can't we apply that to other things? So I'm frustrated. It's not just about food, though. It's so not about food for me. This is about like a lot of different things. And so where's the category and where's the place for having these conversations? Okay. Good question. Next Saturday is my answer to her question. Great idea. All right. I'll leave a note or sign on them. Not that will help, but we'll try. So I will, back to John, I will have to answer or talk about these things. I want to talk about these things, but I want to keep them clear and distinct in the first article. I want to talk about the first article. I'm the mad Christian because I want the first article back. I'm mad that we have pretended it's not there, and I think it has a lot to do with a lot of things. I do not think it is the primary issue that our churches are dying. I believe that is because we have stopped believing in the Lord's Supper. And that doesn't mean you individually or your congregation necessarily, but practically, there's a pretty good chance. And I wonder now, my new query, which I'm not willing to stand on this one yet, but my new query is, have we stopped believing in the Lord's Supper because we stopped believing in the first article? And I have a hunch the answer is yes, but I haven't tied that one together yet. So yes, I will talk about it, but I'm going to do it in a way that has a lot of setup like this, at least, where I'm like, look, this is not salvific in any way, shape, or form. I fully intend to die someday, right? No matter how healthy I manage to figure out how to be, whether I actually am not or not right now, I don't even really know, right? I just feel better. Feel much better than I did. That doesn't mean I'm not going to die, or that I'll live longer even. Maybe I'll die sooner. I don't know. So to not confuse those things. And this goes into, I've mentioned mindfulness a couple of times now. I mean, there is almost nothing I have found as a practice in the last few years, a lifestyle practice that competes with mindfulness. I would say basement, Undercroft. I'll put that word, Undercroft. Sorry, talking to my wife on the text again. Nothing compares with what mindfulness has done. And it's not because it's spiritual in any way, shape, or form, although some people who teach it will say that that's what's going on. It's just because learning how to have self-control I say, learning how to have awareness of your emotions and your feelings and your experience gradually creates an ability to have self-control over your emotions and feelings and experience. It's a phenomenal thing. It's just amazing to me. 10 minutes a day. It takes a little while. You got to build it up. It's a muscle. So, okay. But as you're doing that, right? No matter what you do, if you want to do some mindfulness, you more or less are going to have to venture into somewhere that's not Christianity. There's no such thing as Christian mindfulness. The moment you would try to have Christian mindfulness, you've done the very thing we don't want to do, which you've blurred the line between the second and the first article. Because you put Jesus into mindfulness, which he never did nor taught, nor does it matter for salvation. It only matters because it's a way of understanding how your brain works and trying to garner some self-control over it. It's possible that having the Holy Spirit of God in you would amplify that, because one of the fruits of the Spirit is self-control. So that's fine, but that doesn't make it Christian mindfulness, right? So there's no such thing. There's only, mindfulness, which then is inherently created by God, but is also going to be inherently pagan by anybody who teaches it, which means that they're going to try to turn it into some sort of salvific spirit thing. And so you got to be able to discern that, right? And if you can't discern that, you shouldn't be doing it. Yoga is a better example of this, maybe, right? If you can't discern how the yoga that you went to wasn't pagan, then you shouldn't be there. If you can discern how it was pagan, then you can go stretch. It's cool, right? I mean, that distinction is the one that I think is the most important one to learn. First and second article, why they're different from each other. How do you teach that to Christians in the church, John? I don't know, because the pulpit is not for that. It is for teaching the distinction between first and second article as existing, yeah, but not for then going and teaching the first article and the things in the first article. That is not what the pulpit is for. It's what life is for. Yeah? And so I to not confuse this, right, for those of you who are following me, listening to me, looking for advice, whatever, I would never want you to think that I'm wrong when I tell you the truth from the scriptures because you have found out I am wrong about, say, this or that piece of first article knowledge, right? And that's the danger. Certainly has no business in the pulpit. And then I forget what his other answer was. I'll do this more for the podcast, but we must distinguish between second and first, and that the preaching of Christianity, the teaching of Christianity is always the second and third, right? Third with it. So, but yes, I don't know from your picture there, John, how old you are, but I think it's pretty interesting. You don't look that old to me. I think it's interesting that those of us who are under 50, maybe even under 45, are having health issues sooner than our parents did. And they're different. There's a lot more immunodeficiency going around. That's a puzzle. And it's a puzzle I think there's a lot of people aware of, but only insofar as things like pre-diabetic, diabetic stuff is going on. And the answers we get from our doctors are generally just take this medicine, right? And but why is it here? What's going on? I think that's a puzzle that's really worth thinking about as people, as humans, and then as church, meaning Christians who are here wanting to be healthy enough to share the gospel, wanting to have kids who are healthy, right? So if we're getting worse, what's going to happen to our kids if we don't figure out what this is? Are they just going to get worse at the same time we do, or are they going to get worse sooner? Because my kids are already getting worse sooner. 4 of the 5 have allergies, food allergies of some kind that I don't have. I got the mushroom thing, okay. But, I mean, what? Why is that? You get into epigenetics and how, well, there are things that you can do to your body that do pass on to your kids. You cut off your hand, your kid's going to have 2 hands. But you mess with your genes without knowing it, that impacts the generation to follow. And the cool thing about epigenetic studies, which they've done with the mice, is that even a deprived gene pool that has happened through epigenetics, which is again chemicals that are impacting the genes that they don't mutate them, they turn them off, right? The gene pools that have done that going down into like 3 or 4 generations, if you fix the problem that was causing it, within 2 or 3 generations, the genes restore themselves and the mice are looking and acting healthy like they should be. So it's not like it can't be fixed, but it won't be fixed by our grandkids' generation or by their kids' generation, great-grandkids. That would be the generation that could maybe fix whatever has just happened in the last 3 generations. Well, my idea. I don't think it's my idea. I think there's other people who are thinking about this too, but it's very much underground because it challenges big pharmaceuticals, and big ag actually too, in a strange way. But yeah, but see, I want to be really careful talking about that because it's like that's all. I don't want to call it conspiracy theory. I don't think it is, but it certainly is. It's not something that's certain. It's just guesswork trying to figure out my own personal health, and then hearing other people's journeys lining up in oddly similar ways, and then finding similar causes that happen to also be pretty impactful to the way our civilization is running right now. So, yeah, I will have to talk about it because it matters and it's helped. And if I can help you, I want to do that, right? But we just have to really keep it clear that it is not our faith. And yeah. Amen, Metal Lutheran. Amen to that. That's the great one right there. John spoke again. What'd you say, John? So I plan to go to Fort Wayne Seminary in about a year and a half, getting healthy finances and even relationship. I'm single, but I want to be for the rest of my life before going. Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and I tell you, you want to stay healthy while eating at the Fort Wayne campus, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Be careful. I was there recently, and the only thing, it was 3 meals that I was there for, and at lunch, I was able to get a piece of very overcooked dried chicken without anything on it when I asked for it. And that was about the only thing in everything they served there that I was willing to eat, because I know why I felt bad, and I'm not going to stop feeling bad. I'd rather be hungry. And I went and got food later. So have a plan on that one too. It's really worth knowing. Getting married before you go to SEM's a great idea, because in general there are only 8 deaconesses entering, 7 deaconesses entering the program every year, and there's more guys. So, but it is that 8 group is a narrow pool of ladies who like theology, who also will double your debt load by the time you're done. So think twice about all that kind of stuff. 31, you got time. But yeah. Hey, can I ask? Yeah, glass of whiskey and cigar. I've kept the cigars. I'm actually smoking more cigars than ever because it's the only vice I got left at the moment. I kind of miss vices. I'll drink a little whiskey sometimes. I had a beer a couple days ago with somebody, but I've really cut back on that. That's not the whole story, though, at all. I want to ask, John, so do you mind sharing what your actual health issue is? Like, when you say get healthy, what do you mean? So, yes, so true. I stopped soda years ago. It did help a lot, but it is not sufficient. I grew up drinking soda instead of water. Coca-Cola was my water for like 25 years. No wonder I was pre-diabetic, right? It's not just about what you're eating now. It's about how the whole system and growth in life impacts your metabolic rates, and how do you reset those things. It's very difficult to do. Kills your stomach acid. Yes. Gut health is a big issue right now for all of us, but it is not. I would submit to you that the biggest problem with your stomach is not soda pop, although I can't imagine it helps. Phosphates leach calcium from your bones. Yeah. Have you ever done the trick where you take the egg and you put it in a glass of Coca-Cola overnight? You ever done that? The shell goes away. Like it eats the shell. That's your bones, man. That's your bones. So yeah, good point. Seeing if John's going to type anything. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't. Finding a way to do some sort of exercise is important, Jadine. I would call it secondary. I really do. I mean, look at me. Hold on. I don't run a step. I don't have a Fitbit. There's no way I walk more than, I don't know, 600 to 1,000 paces a day max. Pretty sedentary. Nutrition, man. It is the whole shebang shaboodle. And the thing is, if you really want to get better at things like running, it sure helps to have the energy to do it. What I have started doing is some strength training, very limited, high rep, 1 set, first thing in the morning. You got a pull-up bar, got a kettlebell. Kind of like it. And it takes 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and it works just about everything pretty quick. But I don't know that do we have an inactive and lethargic lifestyle? that's causing our health issues, or are we inactive and lethargic because of our health issues? And I would submit it's the second on this one. So, treat yourself with cane, sugar, soda every once in a while. The high fructose, yeah, the difference between sucrose, glucose, sucrose, and fructose is significant. So I think Sean Stevenson in that podcast I recommended earlier on sugar, I really think you should listen to that no matter who you are in the world. I think he deals with this difference a little bit. The fructose is just like liquid death, right? The glucose, pure glucose that you get from cane sugar is not liquid death. It is kind of like the seed of death instead. That is highly addictive. But yeah, sure. I'm still not sure how I'm going to handle that myself because I'm clean right now, clean quote unquote, from sugar, and it does the energy level. You don't have energy because of sugar, right? It just kind of comes down to that. If you have low energy, it's because you have sugar. You're like, but sugar gives me energy. Not really. Not really. It makes you addicted to sugar as your source of energy. Right? Your body will make sugar to run on without sugar. But when you're putting extra sugar in, that isn't happening. And so when that extra sugar isn't there, your body isn't making any. And so you get a crash, hangry, rush for more sugar. That cycle is the revolution that is the issue. So what I have heard, but I haven't done this yet, what I've heard is that people who manage to get entirely away from what we call exogenous sugars, once you've done that and you get the energy level kind of back to where humans should be at certain ages, which I'm experiencing right now. Once you've done that and that's happened, if you go back and you have some sugar, you will actually get sick, which is really interesting. Now, I haven't had that happen, although I kind of did. It's kind of a sad, scary story. Not sad, it's a pathetic story. So 4th of July, yeah, I love me some tequila. So we're grilling, and I hadn't had any sugar for like a month, and like nothing, right? No, zero sugar, zero exogenous sugar for a month, and I was like, I'm gonna have a margarita. No, and I didn't even make like a sugar water margarita. I just took a little bit of tea and tequila, cold tea, iced tea, and tequila. Mixed it, drank, did another one. Poured some sipping tequila. We did watch TV that day. Watched some TV with my kids. Drank some more sipping tequila. Just kind of sipped tequila most of the evening. Never was drunk. Just kind of felt buzzy most of the evening a little bit. And then, holy crap, did I feel terrible? I have never felt so awful. I didn't throw up, nothing like that. Just next morning, I was so depressed and just hated my life. Hated what? I didn't want to do anything. It wasn't the alcohol, man. That wasn't the alcohol. That was the sugar. I know that. I know that to the bottom of my soul. And yeah. That lesson I've learned, for me at least. I had a beer 2 days ago, right? One beer, afternoon, sitting in the sun. I was kind of unable to focus that evening. Not entirely, but I was like more grumpy tired than I normally would be. Next day, didn't really have any ramifications. So it's like, okay, I think that one's still there for me. I really want it to be. I love the flavor of beer. Love, love, love. John had written something, and I want to make sure I get him. All right, here we go. So weight loss. Yeah, pre-diabetic. Hey, cholesterol. Hey, that's my story right there. Exactly that one. Usual for food-loving Texans. Yeah. Yeah. Let me just say, without doing too much here, I highly recommend you discover a podcast called. Oh man, I'm gonna lose it. It's such a weird name. It's not High Performance Humans. It's not it. Let me find it here for you. It's close though. Human Performance Outliers. I recommend you go way, way back. Don't start at their most recent one. Go way back and let them start. Their sound, they've never gotten their sound to be very good. I don't know why that is. But give them a listen. Because I think they got their finger on something there. And it's two guys who are, in fact, like high-end performers, rowing and then, 100-mile long-distance races, right? That kind of stuff. And these aren't unhealthy people. And and the people they interview are either MDs, doctors, whatnot, who are challenging some of the status quo thinking. And I highly recommend that, John, because those are the issues. Those are exactly my issues. Ha! You didn't hear it from me. You didn't hear it from me, but Conan the Destroyer, I'm with you, man. And it's unreal. It's just unreal. It works it's so easy too. It's so easy. You won't believe it till you try it. But now you know, catch out of the bag. Meat is from God. I do 300-pound bench press for university days. Yeah. So strength training, man. Yeah, absolutely. Because it'll boost your testosterone, no matter what you're eating, honestly. Strength training will boost your testosterone level, male or female, in a good way, a natural, like, endogenous? Hold on. Exogenous means from outside of you. Endogenous. Is that it? Would be your whatever. You're naturally the ones you're making, right? Your own made testosterone, and that will then boost your metabolism. So nothing will extend your life. Well, aside from health, or aside from nutrition, nothing will really extend your life more exercise-wise than strength training. The running doesn't really do it. And it certainly doesn't help you lose weight. Strength training does, and even if it's a little bit. So I'll give you this one because this made such a difference for me, and I continue to work at it. So buy yourself, guys. I mean, ladies, you could do this too, but guys, buy yourself a $25 Amazon.com pull-up bar, one that hangs on the door, right, and a door in your house. Beg your wife, can I please have a door? I'm going to try to get healthy, and she'll let you. And hang it there. Hang it somewhere where you go, where you walk by, right? Don't hang it in a corner. Don't hang it in the basement. Make it really easy to get to. Preferably your closet if possible. And when you wake up in the morning, the first day, go to that pull-up bar and don't try to do a pull-up. Don't you dare. You'll just depress yourself, right? Go to that pull-up, put your hands on the pull-up bar, and jump. Jump until your neck is over the pull-up bar, right? And hold there, and then if you have to, but probably immediately, right? Just let yourself down, but don't drop. As fast as you can, right? Now, if that would in fact break the world, you might need to think a way through that or do a smaller jump, right? Don't jump all the way up, just jump, just go, and then drop, and then drop. But the first day, do one. I swear, I promise, do one. Do one every day for 2 or 3 weeks. Okay? Not a pull-up, a drop-down. Every day for 2 or 3 weeks. If you're doing the little tiny ones, you can do a little more, right? Do a little more like that. But if you've just been doing the one every day for 2 or 3 weeks, one day just decide to max out on pull-ups and see what you can do. You might be surprised. It won't be 50. Right? It probably won't even be 10. It'll be more than 1. And I recommend that whatever that number is that day, then you do that every day from that point on. And you attempt to slowly add one more. And the way you slowly add one more is you do your 3, right? 1, 2, and then don't drop. Go as slow down as you can again. You do that drop down again. And that's all you need, man. I mean, you're going to want to add more eventually of other stuff, but that's it. You're doing pull-ups. I'm doing 8 pull-ups a day right now. When I was in high school playing as a starter on the basketball team, I could do 2, if that. Best shape of my life. It's crazy. And it's strength training. So this gets back to strength training, right? It's not that tough. But you want to set small goals that don't make you think you have to achieve things that are unreasonable, and realize that far better than doing a lot at once is doing a little bit every day. A little bit every day. Right now I'm doing those. I'm doing these. So it was 8 of these, 5 of these. Kettlebell is deadlifts with the kettlebell, 12 of those. I need a better weight for that one. And then about 13 push-ups following that, and hang upside down on the spine extender. That feels so good afterwards. So, but I'm telling you, yeah, strength training, absolutely. And if you got nothing, those pull-ups, man, they work everything in your upper body. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. All right, so yeah, here we are doing health stuff. My health is awful. I stopped producing testosterone in my early 20s. Oh, wow. Yeah. turns out taking injections makes you sterile, so I have to make do with testosterone boosting nutrition, and that's it. Well, we mentioned bacon earlier. Is it Art of Manliness? No, yeah, I think it's the Art of Manliness guy did a whole thing on bacon and testosterone. Like he ate nothing but bacon for like weeks, and then tested his testosterone stuff and like with a doctor. I'm not quite going to do that one, but bacon is a friend of yours on that regard. Yeah, man, I'm sorry. That sucks. A lot of things that they give us turn out to be not so good for us. I ruined part of my body with cortisone, and it's still ruined. It's better. Coconut oil helps, but it's I just and like it's our own faults sometimes because the packaging says it. It says what'll happen. The warnings say it, but they still give it to you. It's awful. You finally made it. Yeah, we're not really talking about theology though. We went off into like first article health stuff, but I'm glad you're here. As we think about life, take a few ideas from keto. That's hard to do. Cool. I mean, yeah, sure, right? Everybody's health is different, so you are going to end up doing different things. But the real goal of keto is keto, right? To be in ketosis. So my guess would be you're probably more paleo, just from you saying that there. And paleo is a good step. It's a good step in the right direction. The thing about carnivore is that it's just the easiest way to do keto, and it's not as hardcore keto. You're not in a permanent keto, but it does a lot of the keto stuff, and it's easier. It's just so counterintuitive, and until it's not, when you start doing it, and you're like, this is so what my body wants. This is amazing. I'm not even hungry. Wow. Gave up alcohol 17 years ago. Good for you. I mean, hopefully you still take the supper. And smoking 7 years ago. Yeah, I'm just getting started on my cigars. I don't think I'm letting go of those, but sugar, yeah. Well, dude. Okay, I'm gonna bring that back. Okay, again, I told the story. Rats in a cage will eat sugar rather than cocaine. That should tell you how hard it is to get rid of. That's how hard it is to get rid of. It's crazy. Gave up sweets for Lent. Felt much better. Then down to, yeah, right. I mean, you will. I do use stevia, by the way. I don't know if you've tried this. I do not use powdered stevia because it is not really sugar free. It's got a weird kind of chemical they use, but high quality liquid stevia, lightly used, is a great gateway toward less sugar in your life. It is something I kind of hope to eventually get off of because it still is training my tongue to want the sweet, which isn't necessary most of the time. But it's a great gateway. There are 7 drops of stevia in my little decaf coffee here, which I've been meaning to take my blood pressure because I've been drinking it again. I can't test and do this stuff at the same time. Read your labels at the store, absolutely. Music burns calories. Oh, muscle burns calories. I said music. I should know better than that because you are a muscular guy. There's no question about that. It does burn calories, and it needs protein. Muscle needs protein. Your body needs protein. There is a war against protein for some reason. Yeah, well, okay, but this is just it, Tracy. I mean, you just joined us. We can, because we're Christians, and we believe the world exists and that it can be known. So we should be able to talk about anything, even if we disagree about those things. Yet we live in a culture where disagreement is like the same thing as violence or something, and so we're not allowed to disagree. And we also live in a culture and a place and a time where the gospel is absolutely hated and almost unheard of. And so it's scary to people when someone who believes in the gospel and has a name that is associated with preaching the gospel talks about other things. Yeah. So I'm very, very nervous about this conversation. I'm glad you're enjoying it because it matters to me because it's really been a beneficial thing for me in my life. And because I also think that the problem of dividing the first article from the second so much so that we don't even believe the first article is there and never talk about it anymore, I think that's more damaging than just a matter of our health. I think that has a lot of impacts on us as Christians and our ability to impact the world in, say, vocation or even with the gospel. God doesn't need us, and God doesn't need us to do certain things that we make up in order to save anybody. But God did give us the gospel and say to preach it to that world that actually exists. And he said he made that world. And so if we go out and we try to preach the gospel in that world against the nature of that world, I don't think we're really believing him at this point by saying, well, he could do it anyway. The stones can cry out. Yes, they can. But we're not told they're going to. We're told that he made it that way. I mean, let's take this into the church as I go and get a piece of now. This stuff is from heaven. Okay. I'm going to come back to this thought about out there. This is, you can't really tell with the baggie, but this is from Trader Joe's, which we don't have one near here. So we only get to buy this stuff when we're somewhere else, and we buy like 15, 20 of them. This sucker here is the, lost a piece of my can on here. The best chocolate ever, and it's so impossible to find it. Nobody carries stuff like this. This is 100% cocoa with cocoa nibs, nothing else. And you say, oh, baker's chocolate. No, it's not baker's chocolate. If you are addicted to sweet, you will not like it. But it is something else. It's so good. So good. It's so good. When we first bought it, we would like put stevia in it. And I was like, it's kind of good. And it is so good. So carnivore. Yeah, I'm not entirely carnivore because it's a bean. But it's so good. It's a drug too, by the way. So, it's so good. I'm sorry. I'll be back. Just give me a minute. That's so good. One more second. So, like, if we were to want to make a sign for the church, right? Your congregation. We're going to put up a sign. Well, why? So people can find us. Oh, cool. That'd be a first article thought, though, wouldn't it? The church needs a sign. Well, why does the church need a sign? Because in the created order in which we live, people have bodies and don't live at the church. And we drive around to get places, and you want to be able to find it. And maybe someone who's new would really want to find it. And a sign would help with that, right? But the sign is not a second article reality, a third article reality. It has nothing to do with Jesus, really, or with the church, really, right? It's not the substance of the church in any way, shape, or form. We don't need a sign. We don't need a building, frankly. It helps, but a sign is it's a good thing. It's for the benefit of the church. It can benefit the church. It's of the bene esse, right? So it's a first article thing. But so we're going to make a sign. So we get in a little committee together. Let's make a sign. We're going to have a sign. Yeah. How much money are we going to spend? Well, not too much. Let's not get carried away. We want people to find us, but we don't necessarily want to have it cost us anything. And you end up making a sign. And you do it by committee, which means you argue about it, and no one's happy about it, and everyone's afraid to offend everybody. And whoever is really just the loudest and least aware of everybody else in the room gets what they want, and everyone else kind of tries to make it work around that reality. And then you put up this sign, and you spend, $5,000-$7,000 on it, and then it's kind of just a crappy sign. And then what does it do? Does anybody actually find your church because of that sign? Maybe you spend a little extra money and you put the screen running thing in it, and then the pastor comes and he puts some puns on the sign, right? More puns. That's what we need, more puns. And is anyone going to join your church because of that? No, of course not. They're not. And I would submit to you it's because you never really decided to know or understand how signs work, what they're for, the marketing reality of them, the value of location and placement in business. Those things all matter, and you're not going to find them in any Christian book on leadership or business. You're not. Nope, won't be there. They'll say you need to read business and leadership books, but they mean theirs, where they're trying to show you how Jesus knows how to set up signs or something stupid like that, which is nonsense. What you should do is study how signs work. Yeah? And you shouldn't have a committee do this. Why would a committee do this? You should get 1 or 2 people max to do it initially, and then bring it back to the group. And then let the group kind of say, well, what about this? What about that? What about this? Right? And yeah. That would be to study the first article for the sake of the church and to make use of it. And that's my thing. That's what I think we need to do. For the sake of the gospel, we need to recover the first article. Not because it's going to save us, but because it is part of the mission, is to know where we are, to believe where we are, to believe God made it, to believe it's redeemed, and then to bend all of our resources, to curve all of our resources, everything that we have, into getting that gospel as far out there as we possibly can. And I think God has promised to bless that. He may bless it with suffering and failure for the sake of our faith, but he's promised to bless that. And what I don't think he's promised to bless is us saying that he can get it out there without us and then not doing anything. Because while it's true, I'll show you my faith by what I do. And if you really believe this, the faith, not that you'll show your faith by what you do, just believe the faith, why would you not try to do something? Or to let your faith impact how you live in some way. So, yeah. So it's really important to me, Tracy, but I'm really nervous about it because I don't want to. I'm not an expert in most of this stuff. I am a hack in all of this stuff. And I don't want the conversation to be one in which I am perceived as the expert. I would rather point you to experts and share kind of what I've found that is that helped me. So, Naturally Slim program, not familiar with that. More about when and what you eat than what you eat. How you eat, when and how. 25 minutes to eat, break from eating, etc. Yeah, that can help. That makes sense. Chewing the food, probably part of that too. That's not bad. I mean, a lot of those pieces are good things. I still eat lunch standing up. I can't stop. I'm too busy trying to get stuff done. This is true too, for sure. That the best diet you will be successful on is the one you will do. Yeah, but that's, I guess, what I gotta say about what I'm on is that because I've done a lot of them. This one's so easy. It's just so easy. It's not hard. I mean, so I mentioned I haven't had alcohol for like a month, give or take. It's a couple of experiences. And I haven't had caffeine for like a month. Not really, not in a real way. And I didn't miss it. That's weird to me. That shouldn't happen that way. But I was satisfied with what I was eating. It's just kind of weird. Super weird. Still taking music. Good metal. Want to do that, please. Funny on commercials for medications, they say talk to your doctor about insert medication and then list the side effects. That's a mile long. Yeah, I know it. It's good. Unsweet tea is not good. I'm with you. I still use the stevia in the teas I'm working on, but I think you can get there. But that's where the stevia is a nice bridge because it doesn't have the calories. It's expensive. You want to buy the liquid stuff, it is not as cheap. It's not as easy to carry with you or whatever. Although I keep one in my backpack for when I'm out. And you want to buy it in a glass bottle and a plastic bottle. Listen to that water episode from Sean Stevenson. But it's a good gateway to get, like, I got a sweet tooth. I need it to be sweet, but I need to have less calories. It's a good gateway. But I think you get to I have gotten to a point where it's like, all right, is it helping me still? I like it. Yes. It's still helping me stave off that desire a little bit, but in some ways it's prolonging the desire. And so at some point I want to get away from that desire because this guy, right, the chocolate here, what this has taught me is that I can learn to love what I used to think needed to be sweeter without the sweet. I can learn to I love it plenty because there's plenty of flavor there without the sweet. But the stevia is a nice. So for the tea, yeah, I hate tea so hard. I like matcha, but matcha's expensive. Other teas, and the stevia helps for sure. Yeah, veganism is killing people and they don't know it. It's crazy, and it's killing the environment. You want to know? You want to hear crazy? So I mean, this is crazy. I listened to a book called The Vegetarian Myth. I do not recommend it at all, although I wish I could. It's written by an ex-vegan, and it has a lot of really great information. And then she preaches weird, radical feminist hate and like hyper environmental anti-humanism at the same time. And it's not like it's just like a couple sentences. It's like chapters, and you just So I cannot recommend the book in any way, shape, or form unless you know that and are just willing to die with that stuff in there. But she's trying to convince vegans that, like, dude, this is going to kill you. and one of the things is that just kind of unknown. It's going to kill the environment too. So all the environmentalists, right? Hyper environmentalists, which I am definitely pro stewarding the environment, by the way. And I'm less worried about the oxygen than I am about the soil at the moment. But it's a different thing. But it was this book that convinced me of this stuff. All the environmentalists that you kind of hear about on the news, freak out ones, are like anti-petrol, right? Anti-petroleum, anti-fossil fuels. That's the big problem. That's what's killing everything. But they're then anti-meat too, right? So because the cows make the gas that's like ruining everything, which the science behind that is not there at all, not even close. And the cows only do that when you spend lots of money to feed them corn, which is not their native food. And so it's all the corn that's being grown They could do that. And they say, well, you could grow all that to feed the world. Okay, so you're going to grow soy instead. And we're already doing that too. So you can buy the vegan, foodstuffs, the fake meats and all this. Okay, but do you know who owns like the companies that are doing all those vegan foodstuffs? There's like 6 of them, by the way. There's like 6 major companies that are in big ag. You know what one of them is? ExxonMobil. The craziest thing ever. So the environmentalists who are against like all the petrol stuff are out there buying their products and like evangelizing with it as vegans. That's nuts right there. That's nuts to me. Don't argue with me. Go buy the book, I guess. If you're a vegan and really upset, you should read it. If you're a vegan, you definitely should. If you're not a vegan, don't waste your time with it. But yeah, yeah. You guys keep going. I'm supposed to be done. 2 hours. What's going on? Artificial sweeteners screw up your system. 2. Yes, agreed. Yes, absolutely. Although, again, Craig, what I'm saying is that it's a bridge, right? So you're trying to get somewhere, and because a diet you won't help you, this can help you begin to get out of that, right? But absolutely. And I will say I don't have it at this point. The stevia I use, and I probably use between 7 and do I really get that high? Nah, between 7 and 12 drops a day of liquid stevia. I'm still using, and it's not creating hunger for me. It may still be affecting my insulin production. It could. So, but it does not affect the hunger. And the goal again has been, and I'm thankful for it for this reason. I would never have gotten where I am now without that initial small step in the journey. And stevia is a big part of that still. So, new creed with that's fun. No, probably not. What a thing though. I remember arguing about this one in seminary with guys. Like, not like I was on a side or nothing, but this is the kind of thing that seminaries, when they're drinking beer, seminarians when they're drinking beer will sit together and like argue about. And the guys who were on the no answer were pretty adamant about the no. So their argument goes like this, I think, if I heard it right back then. And I know we must have read something somewhere that started this, so there must be another discussion about this. But it was that the Book of Concord sufficiently confesses all actual dogmas of Christianity so that there is no need ever again for another symbol, right? So think of a creed. A symbol is an old word for creed, and the confessions are a symbol, just like the old creeds are. So, and the old creeds are in the confessions, which makes them part of the Lutheran symbolic books, we call them sometimes. And so that argument that all the actual dogmas of Scripture, they're in their nutshell, right, are there already completely. That is, I think that's probably true, but I'm not so convinced of it that I would be dogmatic about it. Nor am I so convinced of it that I think that therefore means there will never again arise a time in which the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church in a given time or place must make a confession, which could be as pure as the Book of Concord. So that would be kind of my counter thought in the debate. Are we at that time now? I'm not going to be the one to make that decision, certainly not by myself. It's the kind of thing that we're at that time when all of us decide we're at that time. And when the one who says, no, we're not, is the one that's teaching falsely, right? We're kind of at that time. So, what are the things it could be? I mean, the doctrine of the Holy Spirit, though very clear in the confessions, is not expounded on with great length, allowing the great heresies of the Spirit to exist today, both in and outside of Lutheranism. Yeah, I just heard something. That was weird. It was like someone scratching my headphones. It wasn't me. What else is there today? I mean, eschatology, the rapture. Like, we don't need a creed to deal with the rapture necessarily, but the distinction between heaven and paradise, the timeline of the end of the world, and how, when you die, you're not in the eternal rest in the sense that you will be when you are raised with your body, right? Although you are in your faith, you're in the eternal rest now in your faith. So, that issue could really use some expounding because it's a heresy that's so under the ground and under the water that most people don't even know they have it. So that one's really big. I don't know. I really don't know. I'd have to think about it even more. So the place of liturgy in the Lutheran confessions are really clear about liturgy, and yet they're somehow not clear enough because people can read them and then think what they're saying is just you don't have anything to do with it, and I don't know how that you can get that out of it. But then the flip side is like we have to do it exactly like they did it then, and we have to do exactly the way it says it in the Book of Concord. Well, that's not quite the way the Book of Concord works either. So that issue could be hashed out, but should those really rise to the level of creed? Now, this was an argument in the 70s, I think, when during the Seminex time, when over and against the Concordia Seminary in St. Louis that was teaching that the Bible has errors in it, the LCMS voted in convention and adopted something called the brief statement. And the brief statement is effectively a dogmatic document about the place and truth of Scripture. And the argument against it from the side that didn't want to believe it was you're adding creeds and that doesn't need to be done anymore. And it's wrong for you to do that. And then the other side kind of said, no, we're not adding a creed, but this is true. And as a church, we have to do this. And I'm not sure that I'm really on either of those platforms. I think it kind of was a creed. One of the lines in it, I think is not as clear as it could be. And as a result, could be very problematic. Overall, it's fine. Right? I don't have a problem with it. But I don't know that I want it binding my conscience the same way the Book of Concord binds my conscience. And so that's the thing. Like, so if you're going to do this means you're not only binding like yourselves, right? Like we're saying we as a church body do this or whatever. You're binding like the future. And you better be awful sure about the need for that before you go and try to do something like that. And by definition, you are sectarianizing a little bit. Yeah. So think about the Lutheran confessions didn't arise generally as confessions because they decided they needed to make creeds. They arose as confessions because in the midst of controversy and trial, they made creeds. That is, they confessed things that then later were recognized as creedally sufficient to hold them together and clung to as a unifying banner and flag, a symbol of who we are, right? So maybe that's kind of the best answer to your question. Like, even if you lived in a time when you needed to make a creed, you wouldn't necessarily know you were making a creed, right? But do we live in a time when things are pretty darn confused and we should have some clarity? Yes. Just a little bit. All right. I keep trying to get out of here. You guys keep talking. I don't know. I'm enjoying it, but I want to do other things today too. If the right jam gets you moving, there's music, I suppose. Yes. Increasing regularly, I keep seeing current research that says that eating fat is very good for us and that the elimination of fat from our diet as a result of, yes. Fat's your energy source. It should be. And that's the reason why vegans are having health issues is it's not they don't have an energy source. The lack of fat in their diet is causing problems with their diet, with their body. Your body needs fat. It needs it. Sugar does make you fat. It's true. Fat can make you fat when you are eating it with sugar. And fat can make you fat if you eat way too much fat. But your body really doesn't want to store fat. Sugar is fat. Your body is trying to keep you from being poisoned to death by sugar in your blood, which will kill you. And when you like drop sugar on it, like a sugar bomb on your blood, your liver's like, holy crud, we can't have that floating around here. And it stops every other function it's supposed to be doing, which is like 1,000 functions. And it starts changing the sugar into fat to keep you from dying. And it does it as much as it can until your cells can't hold anymore. And then it starts putting it on the liver. And by that point, you're in insulin resistance. And none of that is necessarily giving you the fat you need, because that would be coming from your body taking and absorbing healthy fats and putting them into the places they need to go, like your brain. Your brain's a ball of fat. Your joints, ligaments, mean, you have all these places in your body you really need fat. Your heart even really needs fat. But the fat that it happens and builds up on your organs because the liver is trying to store sugar anywhere it can, that's not the fat you need, right? And you can't really get that working in a good metabolic way while you're making your liver run a lifelong marathon trying to keep you from dying from sugar overdose. And so that's kind of a corner of this thing. And then that's why you end up pre-diabetic with insulin issues, even if you're not really technically overweight per se. Although our definitions of overweight have changed quite a bit. So it's tough, man. The whole thing's really tough, and none of it's like our fault. Like, it was all sold to us. It still is being sold to us. It's so hard to like. Well, I was doing some grocery shopping yesterday, trying to find some stuff. I really want to get some chicken livers, but I can't find them anywhere. And I was like hungry in the store while I'm doing this because I'd cooked some food for the family. They had to go somewhere last night, so we cooked dinner. They ate, but I didn't want to eat. I had a steak I wanted to eat, so I cooked theirs, and then was going to come back and cook. But I'd go do the grocery shopping. I wasn't hungry yet, and I was getting hungry in the store, and I was just trying to find a snack, and it was like, man alive. I did find some sugar-free beef jerky. Hard to find, by the way. Some sugar-free beef jerky. It had something else in it I didn't want to eat, though, but I ate it anyway because I was so hungry. Yeah. So where did that go? Oh, the fat. So again, and on this one, I mean, if you're curious about this, if you disagree, like, just disagree. It's cool. And if you're curious about this, the fat documentary, I think it's called Fat, a documentary. Go look for that on iTunes. It's not out yet, but you can pre-order it, and it should do a good kind of overview of this debate in the scientific community. Not as much of a debate as it should be. It's being suppressed, and this is kind of. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I refuse to be one. But I do believe in this axiom. You got to follow the money. You got to follow the money. If you really want to understand what's going on, follow the money. Because no one's doing any of this out of the goodness of their hearts, right? They're all doing it for their own benefit. You and me too. We all are. And so, where's the money going? And why would they have a vested interest in us being unhealthy? Because they do. So, you can get 100%. Yeah, man, you guys must be way behind now. Yes, you can at Trader Joe's. It's Absolute Dark or something. Man, you're going to make me eat this whole bar. And then I'm going to have high blood pressure. Because it does have caffeine in it, but I don't know how much. This has never made my caffeine blood pressure issue happen yet, but I'm chewing on it. It's lunchtime for me. All right, let me give you one more fascinating thing. Oh, sorry, Jimmy Dean. I don't know if you're really Jimmy Dean, but you're Jimmy Dean now. You know what? I totally agreed until I started using it. Now I can't stand the taste of sugar in my coffee because it doesn't taste like stevia. You get used to it. It's acquired. Most great tastes in the world are acquired. I like to be low on my chocolate. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. That was intense. It was good, though. It's so good. Yeah, you get it at Trader Joe's. And it doesn't have any lectins in it either. So a lot of this is key. Oh. A lot of chocolates that you get, even if they're not they're like low sugar or they're like a really dark one, they put soy in it. I think it's supposed to be to make it smooth. Heaven help us. Yeah, soy. Well, I'll let you do your own research on soy. I won't touch it. I will not touch soy. That's not food. So, and a lot of chocolates have soy in it. And not even soy, like one of the worst parts of soy, the lectin. Oh my goodness. Anyway, a different thing. Signs everywhere. I'm scrolling down. Where is it again? You're not gonna. If any of my members are still watching, they're gonna be like, "What? No, what happens when it feels time to move on to another congregation? I feel like I'm falling myself and my family to move on. Falling? It may be a pride thing, but I don't know. I'm sad. Failing myself and my family to move on. No. What happens when you feel it's time to move on to another congregation? Move, man. I mean, talk to your wife. If you're a man, right? I don't know. I do not believe this is a really important thing here. I'm going to leave this up here. It's really important. The dominant theology of the call in the Missouri Synod amongst the pastorate for the last 50 to 60 years is heretical. I am not talking about that Jesus calls pastors through congregations. I am talking about how pastors who receive calls believe they are to go about figuring out whether or not they're supposed to accept that call. And what the majority of them do believe is that they are to pray, and then the Spirit will tell them. They don't wait for like a sign like on the road or words out of heaven. They wait for like the right feeling. There's something to be said for following your conscience and being aware that if you have a really bad intuition about something, like a premonition, like this doesn't seem right, that's okay. Like listen to that. You probably are picking up on something psychologically. Yeah, that's not the Holy Spirit. No, and it is not. You don't need that for the call at all. Should you pray? Of course you should pray. You should pray knowing that God will not give you a direct answer, that He wants you to make a decision about the call, that you have two calls, one here, one there, and that you need to choose the one that you believe is best for them right now, both congregations, and your family being and yourself being one of a certain congregation already. All of that needs to be taken into account, and you have to make a strategic choice, and you are free in the gospel to make it. Totally free. And no matter which one you choose, that's where you were called. It's kind of cool. Transcendence is an amazing thing. And so what if you're in a place where you don't have any call and you're just at this church and you really are like, I'm not sure I should be in this call? You're free then too. Are you free to leave that call? Well, technically you could resign. So yes, I don't recommend it generally. There are times when it's necessary, but if you do, it will always be a trial. You just kind of got to know that. It's going to try your faith if you do that. But it doesn't mean that isn't what's necessary and won't be good for your faith. Trials for your faith are often exactly what your faith needs. So you could just do that if that really is the issue. You could be, kicked out by a heretical congregation. I mean, that could happen too. But then the other side of it is, so, okay, you need to assess the, why are you feeling this way, right? And I don't mean like ask the parishioners. Don't do that at all. But like take some time and like plot it out on some paper. Like, what is the cause of me believing I should be somewhere else? Right? Is it just that I don't like this town? Is it that I feel like, I have gifts that are not being used and I'm kind of just wasting away here? And another guy who maybe didn't care as much about this or that other thing would do better, would be a better pastor here than me? Well, I mean, that's okay. And even if you just don't like the town, that's okay too. As long as you're being faithful to the call and doing all that you can do in the call while you're there, I don't think there's anything wrong with then saying, I know about my own person. I have enough actual self-esteem to esteem both my strengths and my weaknesses. And I can see how my weaknesses and this place are not going well together. And so rather than harm myself and others with these weaknesses, I will seek a place where these weaknesses are minimized. Nothing wrong with that. The way you do it today is a little limited. You got to go to your DP, have a conversation, kind of tell them just that. Like, look, here's the three things that no matter what I do, they're never going to be my strengths. And here's how they line up here. And I'm kind of stuck with that. Right. And I'd like to find a way to be somewhere where those weaknesses can be minimized. And here's my strengths. And here's the kind of congregation I think that might fit that a little bit better. So, if in all your work out there, DP, putting out fires and all this, if you come across a place where I can serve us better, I'm totally open to that. Would really like that. In fact, I think I would appreciate it because I want to thrive. I want to be a good pastor, not just a mediocre one. And right now, my weaknesses are just being exposed in this current vocation, current place. Now, you might find, and this is kind of the scary thing, but I think you should be honest. You might find that your weaknesses are, in fact, weaknesses that prevent, or I want to be gentle as I say this, which is kind of crass as I'm just chewing chocolate. It's possible that your weaknesses are such that they in fact mean, or they are weaknesses with respect to the actual office of the ministry. And that's a pretty hard thing to face, I suppose. Not I suppose, I know it would be. So what I would say in that situation is don't despair, because Christ is sufficient in all things. And it is a tremendously faithful thing to recognize that one is not fit for a vocation, and to acknowledge that. I mean, you've watched American Idol where they can't sing, right? It's a godless thing to not know that you don't have that vocation. So it doesn't mean you're not called. It wouldn't mean you're not called. And frankly, it wouldn't mean you can't be a pastor in a church body structured to make the best use of everyone's gifts while minimizing their weaknesses. But we're not structured that way. We're a one size fits all, pocket knife pastors, and that is half the problem, honestly. So it would mean you would have to stop being a pastor. It might mean you need to stop being a career pastor, and there's a difference. There's a difference, although we've forgotten it largely. So, being sad though, there's a lot there, Mom Monster. So, are you a pastor called Mom Monster, or are you using your wife's? I don't know. I feel like I'm talking to a lady. Are you a lady pastor? Because then when you do the study, you're going to find out that you shouldn't be a pastor, because it's pretty clear. But that was crass, or not crass. That was callous of me. The sadness, standard American diet. I don't know. It's not just that always, but I can fully empathize. I have been in more than one parish, my friend, where I believed, because of that time there, I should not be a pastor. And part of my going to KFUO was part of that belief that I was not fit. That the requirements, particularly with regard to extroversion and allowing people to hate me for things that I was doing for them that they couldn't see, that was something I was incapable of internally, psychologically wrestling with and coming through. It turns out that not having slept for 30 years was a big part of that. And made a real difference in the ability to bounce back from stuff. But it wasn't just that, I had some serious soul searching I had to go through when I then resigned the call. I took another call to be on the radio, not quite the same thing. And that was rough. I mentioned the trial earlier. I mean, I was in the trial, and the result of that trial was I need to get back in the parish. I got to do it. And now I at least know my weaknesses here, and I'm doing everything I can to minimize their impact on the congregation and maximize my strengths for the sake of them. And they've been very receptive to that so far, which I'm very thankful for. But that's well, God will bring you where you need to go to at the right time. So don't forget that. So even if you want to go somewhere else and you're still stuck there, the trial being there, the cross of being there, is God's working to save you. So rejoice in that. Thank Him for that. Thank Him for the cross. Thank you for this cross, God. I don't understand it. It hurts, but I know it's here to help me see you and your grace and your mercy and how you are sufficient. So it sounds like when you would do well from a good conversation with a brother, a trustworthy brother somewhere in the circuit or district who's not your circuit counselor and not your DP, who'd be willing to just kind of hear you out a bit. Then, meet regularly. Private confession, absolution probably help a lot too, man, if you haven't been able to do that. So for what that's worth, yes, it is. Renee, I know this. I mentioned it. But what it is nowhere near the amount of caffeine as this, because this, when it's really this, because it's not right now, makes my blood pressure go up, and this does not. Right? I'm not anti-caffeine. I want healthy blood pressure. And this might, because it had a tablespoon. Let's see. Ready? Here, hold on. Remind me. Hold on. Let's see what happens. And it's decaf with a tablespoon of caffeinated. We're going to find out. I'm going to try to do 2 minutes here, 3 minutes here. I'm going to take my blood pressure, and we'll see what it does. And I've had more chocolate than I normally do at once, because I'm just kind of, I don't know, bored. That's the big danger too. Don't have stuff lying around like that. And we will see how much that did to me. And by the way, too, as you said, so like the last month, as I haven't had caffeine, right? Because I've only been doing like trying to test how much can I take for like 2 days here. I forgot this existed, this chocolate. So I went caffeine free for a month and did not have withdrawal. But to know why and how, you'd have to go way back in this video and find someone else who's doing what I'm doing. And it's crazy though. It's like unbelievable because I've tried to quit caffeine before, and oh man, it's just so depressing. Just so depressing. Just wears on you. You can't think. Man, yeah, and it not this time. All right. It's not been 2 minutes left. But yes, I know the chocolate has caffeine. This is a good comment. I think it's fair to say that every left-hand kingdom issue is a right-hand kingdom issue for the Christian. The Christian has an obligation to his neighbor, and that's the point of Paul's point in Romans 14. Yeah, I agree. And I agree even more in this. The right-hand kingdom does not exist outside of the left-hand kingdom. Okay? You with me? The right-hand kingdom, you got to have this terminology already. The right-hand kingdom does not exist outside of the left-hand kingdom. To think that it does is to not believe in the first article. That's my point. Yeah, that's like the whole thing I'm angry about. Because we do. We let the separation of church and state become the separation of the two kingdoms. And as a result, we have ceased to believe in God the Father Almighty without even knowing we're doing it. Practically speaking, we confess him, of course. In Jesus, we're saved into him, of course. No one is apostate yet. But we're becoming apostate. Have you noticed that? It's happening, right? So, the right-hand kingdom exists inside of the left-hand kingdom. It is a mystery. It is in tension and paradox with it. It does not, as it exists, win by the same rules, but neither does it deny those rules. Right? Freedom from the law is not a rejection of the law. So let's see what the law has to say about my my heart pressure at the moment right now. That's a great comment. They're baptized. Yeah. Well, this is going back to a former conversation, and yeah, it's kind of what they're saying, and it is in a sense. They are. 108 over 73. It's not my lowest, not my highest. I'm gonna do it again here in a moment. I want to give that half the fake coffee over here, the almost fake coffee over here, a little more time. But that's not my problem there. Pulse 95. That's about right. See, the problem is when you break 120 over 80, you are now outside of what they would call safe, right? Normal. And then I think it's 130 over 85. You're now moving into really not good. And then you go, higher than that, and you're in that risk. Well, actually, you're at risk at 130 over 80. You're at mild risk for heart attack at 130 over 80. If that's your regular standing blood pressure. And people say, but my doctor said that's normal. Yeah, it's normal in America to be at risk for heart attack. Well, why is that? Oh, don't worry about it. Right? Yeah, it's because of what we eat. That's why. So I'm still in a good range. I want to leave it on because I want to do it again. Still in a good range here. But I was going from like that kind of range up into the 120s, mid 120s over 80s, which again is mild risk. And if you're just going to do that to yourself every day randomly, which is what I've been doing most of my life, apparently, that's really not good for your heart because you're just making your heart work harder, right? Why would you want to do that? Oh, because I love caffeine. Well, okay, sure. Trade off, I suppose. But if you don't have to, yeah. So, confession's perfect every time and place. They are true in it. This is the difference, right? This is really important. They are true in every time and place. They are true. So in that way, they are perfect. But see, perfect is such a terrible word. Perfect is a terrible word. We should not use the word perfect as Christians very often, if ever at all. Complete is a far better word. It's what we usually means when we're translating and you see the word perfect in the Bible, it usually is the word complete, right? Full. Oh, speaking of which, I drank all that coffee and that was a big burp. So, full is a better word. So our confessions are complete in all times and places? Well, if they hold every actual doctrine that exists as an actual like central dogma, central tenet on which all the others are based, then that would be true. Otherwise, it would be a false confession. Not that every confession has to have every doctrine, right? But if they have one that's not true, then it's a false confession. And low power mode on the. Hold on, who's this? Sorry, James, my friend James. I'll reboot it eventually. So complete though also in English sounds a little more like we've got every doctrine, and that's what I just don't know. I don't know. Do we have every actual dogma? And I mentioned the Holy Spirit, but yeah, it's there. It's there. But then what do you do with other false teachings that arise, against these doctrines? What do you do with those when they show up? So, all right, here we go. We're gonna do this again. Supposed to stay. So with supposed to be at heart level, which is part of what probably makes these things less. The wrist ones a little less accurate because heart level is easy to do on your arm, but you really want to try to balance it at the right spot here. So I'm gonna try one more time and see if it bounced at all. I don't know. I don't know that we totally need a new creed. I would disagree with that. I don't think we need a new creed. I think our creeds are pretty dang awesome, and we just don't know them. That's the thing. We should slow down and pay more attention to the creeds. That would be valuable. The ALCA pastors, when they're training, have to do that as part of their job. 108/76, that's still pretty good. So apparently a tablespoon of caffeinated beans is not a problem. That's interesting. Now translating the creed, that's maybe a different thing. Although I would submit that the same rules that apply to the Lord's Prayer apply to things like creeds when you're memorizing it over generations. You really want to keep it the same as much as you can. And so, yeah, not as much a fan of that idea. Poetry, that's cool. I'm all for poetry. You want to write a poem about the creed? That's cool. Do that. Which one was that, Derek? Both sides could even an in-depth creed. Yeah, and so I would not say creed ever because we got 3 of those, and they're a different thing, and there's just no way we can do that. Even if we did it now, how are you ever going to get that much of world Christianity to agree on something? So by calling it creed, you're elevating it to that level. Confessions makes more sense because it was a sectarian, right? A corner thing. It never was agreed upon by the entire church on earth, even though it's true, and they were rejecting it in part. So, yeah. My Catholic husband wanted to ask you then, how does the Book of Concord compare with Summa or against heresies? We've been in dialogue the past 10 years. Well, it compares in this way. It's not written by one guy. That kind of is a big part of it. It is accepted or was accepted at one point by the entire church it's not on earth, because there were 3 other places where there was church at that time, but it was an awful big part of it, right? And there were some radicals who dissented from it. I'll say it this way though. How is it different? This is a far better answer. It says what the Bible says, and Summa doesn't. That's how. It's just really, really straight up, right? It is a pure exposition of the Bible. That's all we confess it to be, a pure exposition of the Bible. Summa does not actually claim to be that, nor is it that. Nor is against heresies, to my knowledge. Although I'm not really familiar with reading that one, so I have less trouble condemning it directly. But in fact, I think we quote it even in the confession. So we have no problem quoting the fathers. I'm pretty sure we even quote Summa at one point, probably against him. So that'd be the difference. We do not put it above Scripture. Rome puts tradition above Scripture officially and on purpose, because you can't understand the Scriptures without traditions. And the only tradition that really matters is the Pope, so shut up and listen to him. And I'm sorry, but that is what it comes down to. I say it crassly because they say it nicely. But what they mean is, you're too dumb to understand until the Pope tells you. That's it. You just can't get it. You don't have the charisma. Yeah? And we don't say that. We're saying this is what the Bible has always said. And we're confessing it at this time and place against those who are trying to deny it. And they had to confess everything. They confessed all that they found or could know to find. So they confessed it all, according to what the Scriptures say. And the only reason we accept it now is not because it's there. It should be every person who finds the Book of Concord, your duty is to test it against the scriptures. It's not your duty to believe it. Your duty is to let it die in the scriptures. And then when you find that it doesn't die, but it lives in the scriptures, then it is a correct repristination of the Word of God. That's the difference. It's a good question, though. Yeah. It's not a pope. It's not a man who you must submit to as the prophet of God on earth, or else you're not really in the true church, except for the atheists who somehow get in through liberal scholarship and whatnot, but really aren't in dogmatically, but kind of are. Oh, what a weird thing Rome is. Oh, we're all united. No, you're not. No, you're not. So yes, amen. Oh, we're way back there already. So is man's enemy. Totally agree. All right. Oh, mom monster. Not a lady pastor. I'm a mother. Oh, so you're not even talking about a call. Oh, God bless you. I'm glad you're not a man. You know why? Because your name's Mom Monster. That worried me a little bit. You're a mother who's trying to find a new church family. And you want to know how to know when you should go to another church? When you need to be fed. Honestly, look, we're leaving a building here. And there are 10, 12, 15 people who are members of this congregation who are really angry about that. And they blame me for that. And I kind of get it. I don't entirely get it because there's a little theology missing in their position, namely that the real thing is staying. But I kind of get it. I get the pain. I get the grief. And the fact is, they will have trouble being fed by me. What's the most important thing for them? To find a place they can be fed. And so the ones that have said that to me, I've said, I get it. Good for you. Very mature. Very mature. So when you're not being fed, you need to get fed. Period. That's it. Nothing else matters. The friendships, the quilting groups, all that. None of that's real, man. All that's dust. You need to get fed. So you move when you need to get fed. I would talk to the pastor and say, I need to get fed. Right? What's going on? Unless the pastor's the reason you're not being fed. And then I would be careful. But the danger would be church hopping just because of personalities and things like that. So you do want to watch out for that. It's easy to trick yourself, but good preaching is worth driving for. Pursue some or not? Where are you at, Michael? Where you are in the world? I'd love to talk with you about that and let you think about that, because it is a more difficult question than it ever has been before. We need pastors, though, for sure. That's good too, man. God will bring you where you need to be when you need to be there. How do we separate that from mysticism? I don't try to read God's mind in any of it. I don't stop trying to go places. I just know that if I'm stuck somewhere, then I'm supposed to be there. I'm not going to do anything that's outside of God's ultimate control. Even the evil, he only allows them to be evil, right? They aren't able to do it against him. So you are where you're supposed to be all the time. But don't read anything into it. It's not a message, right? Oh, I'm in prison. God wants me to be here. He must mean that I need something. No. I mean, whatever's there is what you need, but there's no secret messages, right? That's the difference. Mysticism looking for secret messages, not just believing that God's in charge. Can we get through this quick? Prayerfully consider, yeah. So, or Christ Academy, they can. I don't know if they clear it up, but they can help. The things that they will not talk to you about is debt. Not just being poor the rest of your life and making your family poor too, in ways that maybe you don't need to do and still be a pastor. So send me a PM, man. Send me a PM. Send me a contact. Decaf. Thanks, Darth Mike. Is that Darth Mike? I would normally agree with you, but if you search long and hard, you can find some pretty well brewed decaf that, again, they use the French waterpress method, and you won't notice the flavor difference. However, you will notice your addiction difference. So, current context seminarian, yeah, you could do that as well. Is a thought that won't leave you alone. That's a good thought too. I don't think that's about going to seminary. I think it's about being a pastor. I think they're two different things. One's the essence, one's the bene esse. And I love one of our seminaries, and I think they're great. I just think debt is evil. So you want to think about those things. Don't care about caffeine. Taste terrible. Yes, you're right, but not the French water press method. However they do it, it doesn't change the flavor. You can get a really good cup of coffee. It's more expensive. You're not going to get it Folgers. Yeah, but why don't you want to drink battery acid anyway? For another time past, maybe not. I'm running fast here. Thoughts on modern Christian movie movement we've been seeing? I haven't seen it. I don't know, but my guess is it sucks. Because Christians don't know how to make movies. They don't have the money to spend to make good movies. They don't understand good art because they don't understand good art because the first article is missing from a lot of their stuff, and they're trying to make everything the second article all the time. And they're actually, if they're Reformed, they're technically iconoclasts. So it's so weird that they're making movies in the first place, right? And, the Methodists and whatnot, and technically no graven images and all that. So that's weird too, and maybe that's part of it. But Christian movies generally just try to be Christian, and that's a real problem for the story. Rarely do you get something like Katie Sherman's book, or you have a story that's a story and isn't trying to also somehow manipulate you, but then where the Christianity shines through. So I don't know. My guess is it's a lot of wasted money, and it's gonna save the world. We should have movies made by Christians, but I don't think they should be Christian movies. I don't. The fiction book I'm working on. I'm so excited about it. Wait, where's my computer? Have you seen my computer? I can't find it. I need it. Where did it go? What a moron. Okay, you made me do it. Here we go. I didn't want to do it, but you made me do it. I've been trying to get this book going, fiction book. And is it in the other? Oh, it's in the other one. Hold on. And the thing about it, and it was interesting because I was in contract negotiations with CPH for the most recent book on the Lord's Supper, which will come out in February. And part of their contract is that they want you to sign something called a right of first refusal, which means that you have to let them publish your next book if they want to. And I kept saying, I really don't want this in my contract. And they said, no, we have to put it in your contract. And I ended up signing it anyway because we finally got to a point where the clause is something changed to unless it is in a genre that they do not publish. Because I kept saying I want to write a fiction book, and they said, well, we publish fiction. I'm like, no, you don't. I mean, you do, but you don't. You publish Christian fiction. And I'm not going to write Christian fiction. I'm going to write fiction. But it's going to be Christian fiction written by a Christian. And so it's not as though it won't have stuff in it, but it's not going to be about Christianity in the future, right? Because you can't. The moment you try to write a story about Christianity, and it's just about Christianity, no pagan can understand it. Ever. They can't. So what you need to do is write a story about life that has Christians in it and can have Christianity in it, but it can't be about Christianity. It has to be about life. Otherwise, you're going to get a bad story. You will. So those few people who have managed to write stories that are about Christians, in which Christian things are said in them, and even Christ confessed, the story is not about Christianity. It's about life. And then it's the life of Christians. But the Christian movie movement, I haven't seen it, so I really shouldn't judge, but it's always been the same, so why would it get better? Maybe it is, and that'd be wonderful. But they're going to make bad movies because they're going to make movies about Christianity and try to pretend they're movies about life. Where they're making movies about life in which there are Christians. That's my thought. So here's how much you're going to hate my book. This is not the book. I've spent some time, I'm trying to catalog the language because there's lingo in this world, and messed a lot with genre. I love the idea of fusing genres together. And so I went and I did some research on what different genres are known for doing thematically. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. I got all hung up on that. All of this is what you're not supposed to do as a writer, which is do world building before you write, and then spend a lot of time researching and writing things that will never be part of the book. You're not supposed to do that, but I've been doing it anyway. But I'm really I'm hooked on the concept, and I do have some actual text written. A lot of old text, and then the new stuff that I'm trying to use as a basis for the skeleton. But what do you think of this? Would this be a Christian movie in the Christian movie movement? You ready? It's just, this is like the back cover, right? This is not the book. This is the back cover. I could even show it to you. Hold on. Let's see. I have to go back to the eCam though. So I have to go to another page. Oh, for Pete's sake. Where are you, eCam? eCam. There. Oh, you're there. Okay. So if I do this, it should take me here. And then, is it happening? There it is. All right. It is the world after the before. Something destroyed everything. When? No one knows. No one remembers. Civilization, if you can call it that, crawls amidst the scars and ruins of old. Tribal warlords rule the world through careful control of drugs, food, and tech, all of it flowing from the mysterious City One, stronghold of the silence, a mythical warlord worshipped by some as avatar of the creators. But City One is far beyond the haywire barrier in the golden lands of the front half. It may as well be another planet as far as Jack the Crooks is concerned. A runner fealtied to Reich, one of the most feared warlords of the back half, far less important than magic cities, is staying alive another day. He may be one of Reich's most reliable runners, dangerous enough to deliver time and again on the most unlikely of drops. But being dangerous is only a good thing when it is the weak who fear you. When your existence threatens those who are more dangerous than you, every impossible win is also one more reason to watch your back, even in the safest of places. Christian movie? No, it's not. They can't do it. They can't do it because they have to make it Christian. And I guarantee you this book will have so much Christianity in it, but not that way. It won't. It can't. Not just going to be good. So that's my thought on that Christian movie movement. And you got me to share stuff I didn't want to share. Gave away my mojo. But you guys are talking here. Oh, where's my computer? Yeah, that was hilarious. Secular movies that don't portray Christians like buffoons. Yeah, well, except for that we are sometimes, right? I wish they would portray some real Christians once in a while, but the buffoon Christianity, they portray them exactly like that. That's what they look like. So I can't blame them. I mean, it's what we do. So, what is this? This looks tough. Yeah, full tuition means you probably won't go into it. Yeah, well, unless there were another way, which there already is actually in our church body. Just got to use it. C.S. Lewis doesn't write Christian fiction. He doesn't write Christian fiction. The Chronicles of Narnia are not Christian fiction. They're fiction written by a Christian. Are they analogy? Does he have analogy of Christ? He says no. Like he says, these are not analogies. Well, that's interesting. Do they have a lot of symbolism? Does he use the story or the narrative or the great theme of all themes that Christianity is? Does he bring about Christian insight into the lives? Yes. But they're not Christian fiction. They're not. They can't be. Aslan would be an idol, right? I mean, it's just a false god that interrupted the world, right? So no, I wouldn't call him Christian fiction. He writes books about life, and then he has Christian imagery and thought in them. And there's a major, major difference in these things. It's a distinction I just made up to try to explain what I'm thinking. So I may not be saying it very well, but I do think it's true. One-dimensional characters are one-dimensional no matter if they're Christian or not. True enough. That's part of it too. Debt. I'm not going to go back to debt for now. You guys are having your conversation. That's good for you guys. Dishonored was a good game. I know you don't have the time to yet, lol. But the Dishonored game series is a great experience of merging genres. Yes, I agree. Although I didn't really get into the second one as much. Barely played it, really. Death of the Outsider, never got that far. But the merging of genres is exactly right. There's a lot of that going on, right? And that's what makes it fun. So the genres I'm thinking about, by the way, on that bit I just gave you, I don't even know if you guys liked it or thought it was stupid. There's me fishing. Hold on. I'm not going to show you this one, but I love this, though. I love this. It is a speculative dystopian fiction in a steampunk world filled with cosmic horror and a little bit of Western virtue. That's just all over the map. Oh, and there'll be zombies, too, by the way. There'll be zombies. Yeah. Merging Yeah, and Dishonored definitely did it. The steampunk, see what Dishonored did was it used steampunk, right? And it was a dystopian steampunk, which is very cool. Steampunk is sort of a newer thing. This is where like studying the genre and what the genre does and what it came from is really, really interesting. To me at least, right? So why is steampunk, right? People dressing like Victorians with steam-based guns. I mean, what on earth is going on, and why is it so cool? Because it actually is really cool. Let's fly in a Zeppelin. Why not, right? I mean, it's such a strange thing. So like I went and I dug into it. Like, what is this? What's it for? I'll share some of that too. Why not? It's only Saturday. Speaking of which, how's this for stupid? My family and I have been into like how all the names of the week are named after false gods, right? Thursday is Thor's day, Wednesday is Odin's day, Sunday is the day of Sol, the day of worshiping the sun, and the Lord's Day, it used to be called the Lord's Day back in the day, and so Domingo in Spanish, that'd be the Lord's Day. So we're like trying to figure out what we should do, and as a joke a little bit, we're like, we should name it after the Infinity Stones. So we set a different Infinity Stone for every day of the week, and then we had an Infinity Day. And Saturday's Infinity Day. So you got all the time in the world on Saturday. You got a lot of time on Friday too. It's time day. It was a lot of fun. My son's really into it right now. All right, so let's see here. General theory, where I lay out, where is it? Yeah, this is cool stuff. So steampunk. Steampunk is a nostalgic diagnosis of reality. And I'm going to even add to that thought here as I think about it. Nostalgic diagnosis of possibility in reality. There you go. Possibility in reality. Okay? I'm not going to show it on the screen because I have to give away a bunch of other stuff. But steampunk, if you like it, the reason you like it is a nostalgic diagnosis of the possibilities of reality. Okay? What do I mean by that? Nostalgic, going back to something that's old and calls up like a good memory in order to diagnose, to learn or see or question, find what could be in a real world. It sort of uses a non sequitur to talk about the truth. Yeah. And so it does this through a couple of like little inner tools. One of them, and a lot of this, I've made up terms for stuff I was finding that doesn't have terminology. So I'm making it up, but it's true. I think it has anachronic juxtaposition. This is really obvious, very clearly. That is anachronic, time being moved around where it shouldn't be. So to put two things that don't belong together in time that do exist together, right? So steampunk is putting tech from the future into a steam-based world. It's anachronic juxtaposition. So doing this, it is using historical factuality as a foil for ingenious possibility. Right? For ingenious possibility. So someone liked it while I'm doing this part. Yay! Historical factuality is a foil of ingenious... Oh, wait. Hold on. I just erased something. Possibility. I'm trying to fix my spelling of ingenious. Ingenious possibility. So you go back to something that's real in order to put something that isn't real and wouldn't have been real then there in order to try to find out what might be possible now. Yeah? That's part of it. Highly optimistic in that way too. It is and this is the optimism here too. It's a reformatory of rigorous imagination. A reformatory of rigorous imagination. In an age like ours, filled with dystopian stories, right? You go back to like a reformatory school to have your imagination strengthened through forcing you to imagine the impossible, right? Like a Zeppelin that travels through time or something, right? All this crazy stuff. I've got gears running my arm, right? So it forces your imagination to work hard in a good way that you want to because of that anachronic juxtaposition. The nostalgia created enables that to happen. And to say this a different way, it ignores the real in order to formulate the desirable. Not because the desirable couldn't be real, right? But because it isn't. But how could it be, right? And we want to imagine that so we can find it. And it is also an ornate melodrama, which means, ornate, pretty, melodrama, an emphasis on the character with like overemphasis. And that's really, the overemphasis isn't necessarily on the characters in the stories, although that's often the case too. They're caricatures, sometimes, generally. But it's also the melodrama that is the overemphasis even on just the drawing itself. You don't just have gears in your arm, you have giant gears in your arm, right? Everything's overdone. And this is, I believe, the romantic movement, honestly, trying to assert itself into the dystopian kind of modern story movement. So it's an extravagant nostalgia as a seedbed for authenticity and transcendence. You know, when you go to a steampunk festival, nobody looks the same. They're all authentically dressed in their very unique, different steampunk way of hacking, right? And then the transcendence of existence is somehow, you know, brought about through this experience. That's steampunk. That's why we like it. And yet the hero in these stories is always the talisman of normalcy. That is, he's everyman, right? He's not necessarily special. And he sees things just like we do, this marvelous world. And then the villain is always the harbinger of ignorance, which we would see as the mad scientist, right? He is going too far. He's chasing the modern that is there into destruction. Now apply that to Dishonored. Yeah, it's about right. Huh. I'm looking back at it for Dishonored. Yeah, it does it. How do I get back to my thing now? Come on now. Come on. Go back to, am I back to it? There we go. BioShock Infinite, same thing, right? Same thing. And speaking of a story that messed with Christian themes and then didn't at the end, but really could have. I guess I heard someone once make an argument that it did, but I think it could have more, but it wasn't written by Christians. So, yeah, well. And if Christians had written it, they would have ruined it. All right, you guys keep making comments, and they're all really good. One last question. And it's about writing, so I want to answer it. No one else in the world's ever going to watch this video because it's 3 hours long. One last question. I hope you can find an answer. I've been writing a series of novels for a long time, but as I write it occurs to me that while the ideas and themes of my writings are hopefully not... That's not a question. Where's the rest of it? Get it. Type it. He's typing right now. It's the very end. There we go. Encouraging philosophies like postmodernism and the like. It doesn't exactly talk about Christ. But that's my point, man. That's my point. If you talk about Christ, your novel's over. No one's going to read it. And it's probably not even a good story. The only possibility, right, and they're super rare, is a story about life that's real. And it's so real that Christianity can actually exist in that story as a real story. But it's not a story about Christianity. So Hammer of God, go read it, right? If you want to do that. Hammer of God, again, Katie Sherman's books, I would recommend for that reason. Very rare, very hard to do, valuable when it's done, very hard to do. And so I would recommend not having Christ in the story, at least not in a really obvious way, and certainly not in a way where conversion to Christ is the point of the story. No? It's just... It's not a story at that point. Now, your memoirs, maybe, right? I mean, I've wondered about this. Like, what would it be like to imagine 2400 on a space station, and what's going on in that kind of? And I had to do a dystopian because I'm just a dystopian kind of guy. And in that dystopian world, I kind of imagine Alien 3, where all the monks were. It was such a bad movie, but all the monks were on this like mining station. It was kind of a jail mine or whatever, and they were monks and prisoners. Okay, so life's there, but then like you have Christianity still there, right? What would that look like? But the story couldn't be about that. That wouldn't be interesting. I mean, it would be interesting if it was there. And if it was there as part of a real story, that would be fascinating. But the moment that became what the story was about, it would not be interesting at all. Yeah, the story would have to be about the space station and some sort of conflict that happened on the space station. Like an alien that gets fused through genetic processes with human flesh from what's her name, and then is freaky looking, and she blows it out of an air shaft. I saw this really old movie once, Spider-Man. So I say write your novels, man. And here I got a book for you. It's not. I don't think it's the best book ever written, but it's a good book. It's a good book. Short. Shouldn't be what makes it good. Craig Parton, The Defense Never Rests. Go pick that up. He has an argument for something called a soft apologetic, which is exactly what I'm advocating here and what you are probably already doing without knowing it. And you should have no guilt whatsoever about that. yes, you should continue writing. We need more artists and movie makers and writers who are Christians who will stop trying to use their art as a jackhammer for creating faith and instead make good art from their faith. Not against their faith, but not like a cam hammer, jackhammer. You guys are still talking. Hold on. You guys are still talking seminary. Is awesome. What is this? Just on still with a few friends. I'm still leaning toward 4-way in my hometown. Thanks for the info. Yeah. Derek, if you go to CSL, you're not allowed to watch my show anymore. I mean, you can. You're going to have to. There's some good guys there. There's some good props at CSL. There are. Do you want to learn how to be a pastor and love the liturgy? Don't go there. Sorry. That's just what it is. It's my alma mater. But, yeah. Christian horror would be a really interesting thing. Cosmic horror. So my novel is going to have cosmic horror. Cosmic horror is so cool. I didn't even know it existed. I was trying to do something. So I'm researching these like themes and ways of writing, right? Structures and not themes, but genres. And I wanted to do something in my story. And I didn't know what it was, or it certainly wasn't steampunk, and it certainly wasn't, it's kind of dystopian, but it wasn't really just dystopian by itself, and it certainly wasn't Western, right? And then, like, I discovered, it exists, though. It's called cosmic horror. I don't think I'd ever really like cosmic horror, by the way, but it's exactly what my book needs. Cool. Fun. I'm not writing, I'm talking to you instead. It would be a facade because we wouldn't know how to do it, right? We wouldn't know how to do it. Joel Osteen, that's funny. You could actually maybe pull that off. You could pull off a true horror story in a Pentecostal church. You really could. That Hideous Strength, C.S. Lewis, not a Christianity book, but it is, but it's not. It's cosmic horror, actually. It's a great book. It is hard. It's slow. It's long. It's written before the 50s, right? It's cosmic horror. It's a good book. Remove Darkness, I don't know. Remove the Morning, I don't know anything about it, but yeah, sure. Cthulhu, I don't even know how to say Cthulhu. I don't want to ever see Cthulhu. He can go home. Stay away from me. Yeah. Yep. Well, next week, maybe? I don't know, 3 hours. Dang. Hopefully my wife's home. But I'm going to sign off and go have a sunshiny Infinity Day. And look forward to Soul Day tomorrow in my new week that exists only in the MCU. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you have enjoyed the conversation ranging far and wide. First article, right, has been kind of the theme for this, but also your questions and some of my answers, some opinions, some absolute truth, depending on where I'm getting the source. And more to come. Yeah. Saturday morning chill. Oh, I should say this since you've stuck around this long. If you're not on my Patreon feed, I would dearly appreciate it. Yeah, that helps a lot. And you can find that link in the show notes below. That's always there. If you've never picked up a copy of Broken or Echo, that also does help a lot and encourages me to know that stuff's getting read and shared. If you have not signed up for my newsletter, which I'm thinking it might, we'll see. I was going to do that today, along with preparing finally to speak at Higher Things next week. I was hoping to get a newsletter out Monday. First one. And you can sign up for that below. It's also a good way to find me if YouTube ever makes me disappear again. And what's the other one? There's one more. Like, subscribe, share, all that kind of stuff as well. So cool. Happy Infinity Day. Yeah. All right. You guys are fun. I've enjoyed this. We'll catch you soon. Yeah. Rock on.